Dragon Ball Daily Gift Pack Chapter-81-100. 81. The Shock from the Eastern Realm King Shen Shen. The third request is for subscription. Now that he was discovered, Vegeta slowly got up, flew towards the mouth of phlegm, raised his hand and slapped the mouth of phlegm. As a result, the phlegm was attached to his gloves. Vegeta, lose your gloves, this guy's saliva can make people petrify. Shin's face changed and he exclaimed. What? Vegeta was stunned for a moment, looked down, and sure enough, his gloves had begun to petrify, and then slowly turned upwards to petrify. This scene made Vegeta hurriedly throw away the gloves. Damn, this guy's attack is really weird. Vegeta gritted his teeth. If it wasn't for Shin's reminder, I'm afraid he would really be petrified. Huh, Eastern Realm King Shen Shen. In the open space, Babidi looked up at the side of Sun Wukong and the others, with a sarcastic smile on his mouth, and said sinisterly, Dapra, it seems that the bait has attracted these big fish again according to my plan this time. Come here. Hee hee hee. Dapra let out a cold smile. It looks like Majin Buu will be able to wake up this time. That's right, it only takes the energy of 3 of them to wake Majin Buu. Babidi laughed and was very happy. I didn't expect Majin Buu to wake up so quickly. It was beyond my expectations. Ha ha ha. Okay, just need the energy of 3 people, the others, kill them all. Yes. Dapra responded respectfully. At this time, Suyi and others appeared directly. Babidi. Shin roared. Shin, I know you, the king of the Eastern Realm. Ugly Babidi put his hands behind his back, turned around leisurely, glanced at the group of people sarcastically, with a faint smile on his face. He said, if 3 of you dedicate your energy, maybe I will consider not to kill you. As soon as these words came out, Vegeta sneered. Huh. Babidi suddenly noticed the existence of Vegeta, his eyes narrowed, and he felt a faint trace of evil thoughts on the man's body. Okay, if you don't want to, then Dapra, let's do it. Babidi flew back, ready to watch the play. Puyi, you should also find an opponent to fight. Babidi glanced at another ugly alien creature and said lightly. As ordered. Puyi stood up and glanced at Suyi and others, but found that he seemed to be no match for anyone, and his face suddenly showed an embarrassed look. Lord Babidi, I. Puyi just opened his mouth, but suddenly a mouthful of phlegm came and attached to him. In less than a second, this guy was petrified directly. Lord Babidi doesn't need trash. Dapra laughed, turned his head to look at the other 2 demonized people who wanted to escape, and also spit out 2 mouthfuls of phlegm, petrifying them. Do these guys treat their own people like this? Seeing this scene, Kaylin's expressions changed. Normal. Suyi stood up and said lightly, if you use it, you will die. Don't think that Dapra is the king of the demon world. If Buu comes out, I am afraid that Babidi will abandon him in minutes. Hearing Suyi's words, everyone was silent for a while, not knowing what to say for a while. Dapra, I'll leave it to you next. I'll go down and see Majin Buu first. Babidi smirked twice, then walked straight down. Yes. Dapra responded respectfully and flew into the sky. What to do? Shin's face was very ugly, and he thought that he and others were no match for this guy at all. It's just scum. Vegeta stood up, raised her palm and bombarded Dapora with an energy cannon. Boom. With a wave of Dapra's hand, this energy cannon was easily shot flying. Too weak, your strength. Dapra sneered and shook his head. Oh. Vegeta laughed, roared, and then transformed into Super Saiyan 2. Bombing you, such a weak scum, with such a powerful force, what a waste of expression. As he spoke, Vegeta moved and flew to Dapora in an instant. You know, Vegeta in Super Saiyan 2 has a combat power of 180 billion. With Dapra, which is only 70 billion, he can beat him with his eyes closed. What a powerful force. The expressions of Shin and Jabit on the side changed dramatically, and they were both shocked by Vegeta's amazing momentum. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot flowers 0 katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. How can a human being be so powerful? Shin was really shocked. It was just horrible. Ah da 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 da. Who was in Super Saiyan 2 state, went berserk, arrived in front of Dapora in an instant, and bombarded him with a punch. How can you be so powerful? This repressive force made Dapora, the king of the demon world, roar. I said, you are nothing but scum. I thought you were strong, but that's all. Boom. Vegeta sneered, and a huge energy cannon bombarded Dapora, killing him directly. Oh, scum. Vegeta smiled coldly, landed slowly, looked back at the Eastern Realm King Shin and Jabbit, and walked directly into the gate. 0. Shin couldn't help swallowing, shocked by Vegeta's strength. Lord Kaiwangshin, Vegeta's strength is similar to Goku's. And that Mr. Suyi's strength is even more powerful. Piccolo whispered. They are not ordinary human beings, they are the powerful race of Saiyans. Saiyan. Aren't Saiyans a human race? He laughed hard and laughed, but it was not that he had never heard of this race, a race that was born by plundering resources, and was once ignored by him at all. Now. Shin glanced at Sun Wukong again, then put his eyes on Suyi, and sighed in his heart. I am afraid that these few people alone are enough to destroy many realm of the gods. Fortunately, now they do not have evil thoughts. I was wrong before and looked down on you. I'm here to apologize to everyone. Shin turned around and bowed to everyone. Kaiwangshin, don't have to be so polite. Let's enter the spaceship below and have a good fight with Majin Buu. Sun Wukong is full of fighting spirit, and Vegeta has been in for a long time. If this guy is the first to fight the very powerful Demon Buu, then he can only watch the show on the side. Hearing Sun Wukong's words, Shin opened his mouth, but thought of something, and hurriedly held back. He was afraid that he would be slapped in the face again later, so he didn't dare to say more. The group came to the gate and slowly walked towards the spaceship below. 82. Demonized Vegeta, Majin Buu is born. When Suyi and the others stepped off the spaceship, Vegeta, who had stepped down one step earlier, had already passed all the way and came to Babidi with ease. It's all over, right? That's awesome, Dapora. Babidi was looking at the sleeping Majin Buu, and when he heard footsteps, he thought it was Dapora, and laughed happily. Oh, scum. Vegeta's voice sounded, causing Babidi to be stunned for a moment, and then slowly turned his head to see Vegeta in the Super 2 form suddenly shaken in place. How did you get in? After 2 seconds, Babidi exclaimed and hurried back. Call out. Vegeta stepped out and came to Babidi in an instant, stretched out his hand and grabbed his neck, lifted him up, and said coldly, hurry up and release Majin Buu, 687, let me well how strong he is. Sun Wukong wants to have a fight with Demon Buu, he naturally thinks too, and he wants to kill Demon Buu as soon as possible, and then have a good fight with Kakarot to let him know about his 7 years of practice. Result. Then let me go, and I can lift the seal of Majin Buu. When Babidi heard Vegeta's words, he felt that the evil thoughts in his heart were getting stronger and stronger, and the fear in his heart had dissipated too much, and his eyes rolled and he said, Boom. Vegeta narrowed her eyes, pinched Babidi's neck and threw it down, saying coldly, hurry up. Good. Babidi laughed. He felt that the evil thoughts in Vegeta's heart were getting stronger and stronger. Not to mention the excitement on his face, he clapped his hands and said, the stronger you are, the happier I am. Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Vegeta frowned. ... At the same time, Suyi and the others, who had already arrived at the very second floor of the universe, saw a lot of corpses, and their brows furrowed. This guy Vegeta is too brutal right now. Krillin pinched his nose and complained, the bloody smell around him made him a little uncomfortable. Suddenly, a hidden and powerful evil breath came, Suyi's eyes flashed, and his steps accelerated a lot. Seeing Suyi speeding up, several people looked at each other and hurriedly followed. Soon, A group of people came to the last floor of the spacecraft. At this moment, in a very huge space, a pink-skinned monster stood behind Babidi, and Vegeta, who was next to him, kept his Super 2 state and folded his arms and stared at the entrance of this floor indifferently. Suyi took the lead and walked in, swept it around, his eyes fixed on the pink-skinned monster with an antenna-like thing on its head. This fellow Majin Buu woke up. Majin Buu. When Shin saw Majin Buu, his face changed and he exclaimed. What? This guy is Majin Buu. Why does it feel like he's not as powerful as he thought? Monkey King and the others looked at Demon Buu, and they all started to talk in a very strange low voice. Indeed, with pink skin, plus an antenna-like thing on his head, fat toot, this Demon Buu looks very harmless to humans and animals. Seeing that these people were complaining about the appearance of Demon Buu, Suyi's mouth twitched. Please, didn't you see that Vegeta was a little different? Wait, Vegeta, why are you on the other side? Sun Wukong suddenly exclaimed. Huh, really? Seeing Vegeta beside Babidi, Klein was stunned, and there was a black M on his forehead. Vegeta, he seems to be controlled by Babidi. Expression changed when he saw the black M on Vegeta's forehead. What? Everyone was shocked. Ha ha ha, thank you so much, my Vegeta. If it wasn't for you, Majin Buu wouldn't be able to wake up. Babidi laughed. Just now, he controlled Vegeta, who had evil thoughts, and let him release an energy ball at Buu. The powerful energy instantly awakened Buu. Scum, what did you say? Vegeta's face became gloomy, and a strong breath burst out, which scared Babidi back several steps, and fell and sat on the ground. Good. What a powerful force. Shin's face paled, and now Vegeta's strength has risen a lot after being controlled by Babidi, not 1 point or 2 points than before. Humph. Babidi, who fell to the ground, snorted coldly, got up slowly, pointed to Vegeta and said coldly, now you are under my control, and you are my subordinate, if you dare. Boom. Before he could finish speaking, Vegeta punched Babidi directly in the face, blasting him away and sticking it to the wall on one side. Scum, say one more word and I'll kill you. Vegeta said coldly. Hi. Seeing that Vegeta dared to take action against Babidi, Shin gasped, with a strange expression on his face. Why doesn't Vegeta seem like someone who is being controlled? Jabit asked in surprise. The pride of the Saiyan Prince, how can this kind of scum be controlled? Suyi laughed on the side. If it weren't for this characteristic, how could Vegeta become the second male protagonist in the Dragon Ball world, and it was even more impossible to keep chasing Sun Wukong's strength. Of course, when they arrived at the Dragon Ball Super Tournament, the gap between the two was even more obvious. Although both of them were Super Saiyan Blue, the comparison of their strengths was completely one in the sky and one in the ground. When Vegeta heard Suyi's words, she couldn't help but look over with a smile on her face. To Suyi, Vegeta has a fighting spirit in her heart, but more with respect. 3.1 Because, if it wasn't for Suyi's help, he wouldn't have grown to this point, let alone been chasing the footsteps of Sun Wukong. Now, his pride is understood by Suyi, and he is even happier. Damn, Majin Buu, kill me Vegeta. Babidi jumped out of the wall. He was already ugly, but now his nose was bruised and his face was even more ugly, making Majin Buu's face show a look of disgust. However, he was created by Babidi's father, Babidi. He knew that this Babidi could definitely control him, so even if he was upset, he had to be obedient. Boom. Majin Buu hammered his fists and squinted his eyes to look at Vegeta. When he felt the provocative gaze of Vegeta, his squinted eyes opened slightly, projecting a burst of energy. Dangerous Light. 83. Demonized Vegeta vs Majin Buu. Chapter 5. Majin Buu's gaze swept over, Vegeta's heart skipped a beat, and an inexplicable fear spread under her heart. As soon as this thought came out, Vegeta's face became gloomy. She shook her head and looked at Majin Buu coldly, hooked his fingers at him, and said coldly, Bubble Gum, be careful that I will kill you directly. Bubble Gum. Hearing these 3 words, A puzzled expression suddenly appeared on Majin Buu's face. What is bubble gum? Puff. Hearing this bubble gum, Suyi couldn't help but burst out laughing. Good guy, Vegeta can even say such a funny thing. You don't need to know. Vegeta was very cold, and slowly stepped forward, and his momentum became stronger and stronger as he approached Majin Buu step by step. That seems to knock you to the ground and you'll tell me what bubblegum is. Majin Buu grinned, a harmless smile on his chubby face. Boom. As Majin Buu's voice fell, Vegeta rushed in front of him like a cannonball and punched him in the face. Majin Buu's face was dented directly, and Vegeta withdrew his hand and punched him in the stomach. Similarly, Majin Buu's stomach was also dented. Huh. Vegeta felt weird. How could it feel like he didn't hurt this guy? Finished. Majin Buu straightened his stomach, his sunken face and stomach returned to normal. He looked at Vegeta with a smile, and a straight punch hit him in the face as well. Boom. Vegeta flew out directly, and a stream of blood spurted out in the air. It's up to me when the fight is over. Majin Buu whispered. His fat body dodged, and instantly came behind Vegeta, then raised his legs and kicked Vegeta up again. Boom. The top of this last layer of spaceships is punctured. Seeing this scene, Babbidi's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, Majin Buu, do a little more, stop for a while, and I'll change the place. This spaceship is his lifeblood, and it has a lot of things on it, and it must not be destroyed by Majin Buu. Speaking, Babbidi hurriedly released a magic. The scene instantly transformed, and came to the ground. What's the matter? Sun Wukong tilted his head and glanced around, with a puzzled look on his face. It's Babbidi's magic, and now we're in the space, but we're actually still inside the spaceship. It's just that no collision can destroy the spaceship. Shin explained. That's it. Sun Wukong nodded suddenly, with a look of admiration on his face. This Babbidi is also a powerful character. Hearing this admiration, Shin's mouth twitched. This guy is really big-hearted, and he even admired his opponent. Okay, Majin Buu, you can rest assured to use all your strength to shoot. These guys, I will kill them all. Babbidi clapped his hands and laughed. Bang bang bang. Tell me, what is bubble gum? At this time, after the scene changed, Majin Buu and Vegeta were in the sky. Everyone saw that Vegeta was just being beaten by Majin Buu in the sky, and there was no way to fight back. Vegeta. Sun Wukong roared, cheer up, but don't underestimate this demon Buu. Hearing Sun Wukong's voice, Vegeta, who was being beaten, was furious. I was actually mad at me being beaten up by this guy Kakarot. I'm so pissed off. Demon Buu, die. Vegeta roared inwardly, the firepower was full, and the combat power exploded. Boom. One punch. Bombarded Majin Buu. Boom. Another punch. Bombarded on Majin Buu's head, and directly turned his head in a circle. In the end, Vegeta bombarded him with a powerful energy cannon, and a large hole appeared in Majin Buu's stomach. Scumbag. Now you know how good I am. Vegeta stepped back a few dozen meters, stretched out his right hand, and rays of light appeared in his palm. This was him accumulating gas and preparing to use a super large energy cannon to kill the demon Buu. Majin Buu, be careful. Babbidi below roared angrily, a look of panic on his face. Although he was Babbidi's child, he didn't know how strong Majin Buu was, and when he saw Vegeta with full firepower, he panicked. Hearing Babbidi's words, the demon Buu in the sky showed a smile on his face, his squinted eyes opened a little again, and a small shadow appeared on the edge of his eyes. You pissed me off, I'm going to turn you into a cookie and eat it. Majin Buu's gloomy expression looked very scary, but the words he said were so childish. At least, Vegeta laughed when she heard this. However, he soon stopped laughing, because the pink antenna-like thing on Majin Buu's head charged Vegeta, who was accumulating gas. Vegeta, be careful. If you are electrocuted by Majin Buu, it will really turn into a cookie. Shin roared angrily. What? Vegeta's expression changed, and he hurriedly stopped accumulating gas, and then dodged the attack of Majin Buu at a very fast speed. Blast wave. Seeing Vegeta dodging 120 degrees away, a lot of water vapor spewed out of the small hole on the top of Majin Buu's head, and then he spread his hands upwards, followed by terrifying coercion rushing towards Vegeta. Boom. This is a kind of air energy cannon. It can't see the trajectory at all, and it has already exploded around Vegeta, directly blasting Vegeta to the death and suffering. Now, tell me what bubble gum is. Majin Buu flew over, stretched out his foot and stepped on Vegeta's head, squinting his eyes with a harmless smile on his face. Vegeta. Sun Wukong shouted, hurriedly flew forward, and sent a turtle Qigong wave to the Devil Buu who stepped on Vegeta's head. Boom. Demon Buu didn't turn his head, he stretched out his hand and slapped it at will, and the turtle Qigong wave exploded on the other side, causing a huge mushroom cloud. This guy is so strong. Sun Wukong stopped in midair and looked at Majin Buu in disbelief. Drink. However, the stronger Majin Buu is, the more excited Sun Wukong is naturally. So, he exploded, skipped the Super Saiyan 1 state, went directly to the Super Saiyan 2 state, and yelled at Majin Buu, "Now, let me be your enemy." At this time, Su Yi, who was watching the play, suddenly sounded the system's sweet and pleasant task prompt in his mind. 84. What level of task is this? Too fat. Ding. The mission has been released. To obliterate Babidi and completely unleash the nature of Majin Buu. Mission reward. 1 million exchange points. 6 Thane Excalibur. 100 silver level gift packs. Does the host choose to accept this mission? ... The system's sweet and melodious prompt sounded in Su Yi's mind almost 3 times, and then Su Yi came back to his senses and swallowed. Not to mention the million exchange points, any one of the 6 Meridian Divine Sword is probably comparable to this simple task. And now, there are more than 100 silver level gift packs. This Nima, what kind of heavenly mission is this? It's so scary. System, is your mission real or fake? Or, is there a hidden mystery? Su Yi blinked, unable to believe that this task would be so fat. Host, there must be a mystery. This is to let you completely unleash the nature of Majin Buu. This is the hidden mystery. System explained, if the task of completely unleashing the nature of Majin Buu cannot be completed, the host will naturally be unable to obtain the task reward. Hearing this explanation, Su Yi's eyes narrowed. Unleash Majin Buu's nature completely. What is that? Majin Buu actually has 2 in a general sense. One is more kind and harmless. At present, this fat Buu should be regarded as a slightly kind Buu. The other is the very evil Buu, who kills at every turn. So, is this to let him release that evil Buu? Su Yi thought about it, and after a while, nodded and accepted the task. Such a fat task, there is no reason not to take it. Moreover, even if he did not complete this task, he would not have any pressure, because there is no punishment for failure of the task at all. Looking at the field again, Majin Buu has already fought against Sun Wukong. Shin was worried from the beginning to the follow-up when he saw that Demon Buu was beaten by Sun Wukong, and his face gradually showed a relieved smile. Looks like Goku has a chance to destroy this fellow Majin Buu diaresis. Shin said happily. However, he soon stopped laughing. Because, it seems that Majin Buu has undergone a transformation. The whole person is different from the previous piece. The aura of tyranny spreads around him. You've completely angered me, and I'll kill you. Majin Buu reached out and patted his chest, then made a calyx shape with his hands. Could this guy also send Qigong waves? Sun Wukong, who was on the side, was stunned when he saw the action of Majin Buu. Let you see my turtle Qigong wave too. Demon Buu instantly launched this attack. The blue light was too dazzling, and the shock wave was also very terrifying, but in the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of Sun Wukong. Boom! The explosion sounded, and a large mushroom cloud rose up near where Sun Wukong was. Goku! Piccolo let out a loud roar. Dad! Son Gohan also roared loudly. Damn, Goku's powerful chi has dissipated, and even he is not the opponent of this Majin Buu. Krillin clenched his teeth on one side, his body trembling constantly. Mr. Suyi, Goku is no match for Majin Buu. Excuse me, do you think you are Majin Buu's match? At this moment, Shin thought of what Bik had said before, and hurriedly came to Suyi and asked politely. Hearing this question, Suyi was a little speechless. Did he find that most people in the Dragon Ball world are people with very low emotional intelligence? Otherwise, how could this guy ask such an annoying question so directly? Without complaining too much, Suyi glanced at the little man indifferently, and said lightly, is it because the opponent didn't say it, he played it? After saying this, Suyi stepped forward and came to Babidi in an instant. The speed was so fast that Babidi was stunned for several seconds, and finally his expression changed. He hurriedly stepped back 100 or 2 meters, and roared at the demon Buu in the sky. Magic Buu, someone wants to hurt me, you have to protect me. The voice entered Majin Buu's ears, making his slightly opened eyes squinted again, turning around and showing Babidi a harmless smile. Don't worry, wait for me to solve this to make me angry, let's talk about it. Do you want to die? Babidi's face changed again, and he roared. I think, you want to die. Majin Buu opened his eyes again, this time even wider than before, and a black air flow suddenly appeared in his hands. Although the small hole on his head was still spewing water vapor this time, it was jets of black water vapor. Seeing this scene, Suyi raised his brows, because this was a scene that never appeared in the original novel. Diaresis you. Babidi pointed at the Majin Buu in the sky, his face full of horror. Die. Majin Buu flew over and punched Babidi. Boom. Ah. Babidi saw Majin Buu flying over, closed his eyes, and let out a scream. However, after 2 seconds, he found that he didn't seem to have anything, and hurriedly opened his eyes to take a look, but saw Suyi reaching out and blocking the fist of Demon Buu. His face couldn't help showing a look of astonishment. Mr. Suya, how can he help Babidi? Seeing this scene, Shin and the others changed their expressions and panicked. Suyi, shouldn't he be controlled by Babidi too? Keelan suddenly said. As he said these words, a lot of sweat suddenly appeared on the foreheads of Piccolo and Son Gohan. If Suyi is controlled by Babidi, I am afraid that the whole earth will be destroyed. And they, too, had to die in seconds. Keelan may not know Wang Deshao, Suyi's strength, but Son Gohan and Piccolo understand how powerful his strength is. Should not. A few people looked at the field again, and Suyi punched the Demon Buu with a punch, directly smashing his whole body into pink meatballs. Good. What a powerful force. Killing Demon Buu with one punch, this Suyi's strength is really terrifying. Shin couldn't help but exclaimed. However, he soon remembered something even more terrifying. Was Suyi, who helped Babidi, controlled by Babidi? If it is really controlled, then this Suyi is probably an evil existence that is thousands of times more terrifying than Majin Buu. Will they survive next time? Thinking of this, Shin's body trembled uncontrollably. Not only him, Jabbit, but also Krillin. A panic rose in Piccolo's heart at this moment. 85. Evil Buu differentiated from Fat Buu's body. I believe Uncle Suyi. Let's not say whether Babidi can control him. Even the uncle himself will not have any evil thoughts. Sun Wukong said calmly. Piccolo was his mentor in life and also in practice, and Suyi was undoubtedly not his idol. For his idol, he naturally believed unconditionally. Keelan and the others laughed bitterly, not fully knowing whether Suyi was controlled by Babidi. On Suyi's side, he didn't know that Klein and the others thought he was being controlled by Babidi. On Biddy. Don't kill me, don't kill me. A man who can easily kill Majin Buu with a single punch is a terrifying existence that he can provoke. If I don't kill you, my 1 million exchange points, the 6 Thane Excalibur and 100 silver level gift packs will fly away. Suyi shook his head and chuckled. He blocked Majin Buu's attack naturally because Babidi had to be killed by him, otherwise even letting Majin Buu completely unleash his nature would not be regarded as completing the mission. Babidi couldn't understand Su Yi's words, so he could only keep begging for mercy. Boom. 443 Su Yi was too lazy to waste time, raised his hand and punched out, directly blowing this Babidi. Babidi's strength is not as perverted as Majin Buu. When this punch comes down, it blows up, but it really blows up, and there is no hope of resurrection at all. Look, I said, how could Uncle Su Yi be controlled by a guy like Babidi? Sun Wufan laughed, he believed in his idol, and he was right. Woo. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, they were under a lot of pressure just now. Now that Su Yi killed Babidi, it was a relief. Wait, look at you. Piccolo was just about to give Sun Wukong and Vegeta the fairy beans he got from the cat fairy a while ago, but Yu Guangzong suddenly saw the meatballs that the demon Buu turned into slowly gathering, and finally the demon reappeared. Man Buu. Why didn't he die? Shin exclaimed, he thought that the powerful Su Yi had killed the demon Buu, but now it seems that he did not. It's over, I've heard that the angry Majin Buu is stronger. Moreover, he seems to have no beyond restrictions on Babidi, so his strength will probably improve a lot. Jabbat patted his forehead, terrified. Don't worry, with Uncle Su Yi here, Demon Buu is definitely not his opponent. Sun Wufan is very confident in Su Yi's strength. He shook his head with a hard smile. Although he knew that Su Yi was very powerful, he was still very worried and felt that Su Yi could not be the opponent of Demon Buu. I'm going to kill you, kill you. Demon Buu angrily pounded his chest, steam, buzzing, above his head, and then Su Yi looked up and found a black cloud rising above this guy's head. So, is this another Majin Buu coming? Su Yi suddenly became interested, and it seemed that his task would soon be completed. In his opinion, Evil Buu should have completely released the nature of Majin Buu. Because the original Majin Buu is the evil one. And now this Fat Buu is actually because the Demon Buu absorbed a great Realm King God, and that Big Realm King God is also a very kind God, thus giving birth to Fat Buu, who is as simple as a piece of white paper childlike Buu. At this moment, Fat Buu had already rushed over and waved his fist at Su Yi. At this time, Buu, who was already a completely kind body, was too weak because he scattered the evil Buu. Boom. Su Yi threw him a few hundred meters away with a random punch, then ignored the Fat Buu and looked up at the black clouds in the sky. What's the matter? Shin, who was next to him, didn't understand what was going on, especially the black cloud in the sky, which made him even more puzzled. That's another Buu, call it Evil Buu. Su Yi explained lightly, before that Fat Buu can be said to be a guy who doesn't know good and evil, what you do to him, he will do to you. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other in dismay. So, if they didn't take action at the beginning, I'm afraid it really won't cause any serious consequences. Shin thought about it, but quickly put the thought aside. Because, with Babidi, the evil magician who can control Majin Buu is the evil side no matter what. Therefore, it is naturally impossible not to shoot this guy. Boom. At this moment, the black clouds in the sky suddenly burst out with a dazzling golden light. Immediately afterwards, one hand stretched out from the cloud, then another hand and two legs, and finally the black cloud completely dissipated, revealing the appearance of this new Buu. Black, thin, and powerful. Everyone looked at him and had three impressions of him. Sure enough. Su Yi's body slowly rose and looked at this evil Buu. Who are you? I can sense how powerful you are. Evil Buu looked at Su Yi and did not dare to act rashly. Drink. Su Yi was just about to speak, but unexpectedly, Fat Buu, who had been knocked away by him before, suddenly attacked, and pink arcs flew towards him. Su Yi knew what it was. As long as he was hit, he would definitely turn into a cookie. So, he hurriedly ducked sideways. Su Yi let it go, and the arc naturally flew towards the evil Buu on the same line. Ha! Evil Buu stared, took a deep breath, and then spewed a cloud of black smoke from his mouth. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Fat Boo's arc was bounced back. Laugh. The arc hit Fat Boo, and he seemed to be electrocuted. His whole body trembled twice, and finally turned into a Fat Boo biscuit and fell to the ground. Evil Boo's eyes lit up in vain, and then he quickly flew towards the biscuit, and finally ate the biscuit. 2 or 3 seconds later, a stream of pink air flowed out of Evil Boo's body, killing him. Wrapped in it. What's the matter? Evil Boo eats Fat Boo, what will happen? Krillin asked Shin, who was next to him. No, don't know. How could Shin know? The cold sweat dripped and he shook his head as he looked at the direction where the pink airflow was constantly rising. As for Piccolo, he glanced at the pink mist thoughtfully, wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, and secretly said, probably. No way. 86. The 6 Meridians Excalibur is beginning to show its power. The first request is to subscribe. Rub. Buzz. When everyone except Suyi was wondering, a flash of light appeared, and then a stream of pink steam came out. Ha ha ha. There was a loud laugh, the fog dissipated, and a thin pink tilde Evil Boo appeared. This guy. Piccolo's face changed, and as expected, he ate the biscuit, and the 2 Boo became one. And, even more powerful. You must know that at the beginning, he and the gods were divided into 2, and their respective strengths were actually not very strong. But later the 2 merged into 1, which made his strength improved by more than 1 or 2 grades. It's almost on the verge of breaking out. Well, this skinny Boo has a combat power of 500 billion, so his strength is not too weak. Suyi nodded secretly in his heart as he saw this skinny Boo. At this stage, this kind of combat power is indeed invincible. Of course, the premise is that he does not shoot. Once he does, that is the real invincibility. Yo-hoo! Thin Boo howled, looking very happy. His body stretched freely, becoming smaller at a time, and becoming very long at a time. This guy is really rampant. At this time, Vegeta and Sun Wukong, who didn't know when they woke up, came over, and Vegeta gritted his teeth and said something. Dad, Uncle Vegeta, take Shondo quickly. Sun Wufan came over with a small bag and handed it to Sun Wukong. The 2 ate the fairy beans, and their faces were full of solemn expressions. Adhering to the style of Saiyans that will increase their combat effectiveness after recovery, now the strength of Sun Wukong and Vegeta has risen again. However, in the face of the now stronger Thin Boo, they still have no resistance. What should I do? I don't know if Brother Suyi is this guy's opponent. Sun Wukong smiled bitterly for a while. Seriously, except in Suyi's hands, this was the first time he felt so powerless. He was directly crushed and had no power to fight back. Vegeta's face was gloomy and uncertain. He was similar to Sun Wukong's thinking at this time. How could he, who never admit defeat, just admit defeat? Drink. Immediately, Vegeta transformed into a Super Saiyan 2 state and killed the skinny Boo who was howling with joy. At this time, Suyi was driving a desertion, because the system had already prompted him to complete the task. 6 Meridian Divine Sword, 1 million exchange points, plus 100 silver level gift packs. Over the years, Suyi spent a lot of exchange points, but at the same time he also earned a lot of exchange points. Now, with the 1 million exchange points he just got, he already has more than 11 million exchange points in his hands. This seems like a lot, but in fact, at present, as long as he upgrades the time house, which has reached 100 times the time acceleration, I am afraid that the exchange points of more than 11 million will become more than 1 million in minutes. 100 silver level gift packs, are you trying to make me soft? Suyi complained, but he was still quite happy. 100 silver level gift packs, no matter how bad luck is, there will always be something good, right? When Suyi was about to take a look at the 6-veined divine sword, Sun Wukong and Vegeta flew down near him one after another. That's all you can do with me. Thin Boo's voice entered Suyi's ears, causing him to slightly raise his eyes and look at this guy. System, teach me the 6 Meridians divine sword. The corner of Suyi's mouth evoked a beautiful arc, and she said to the system in her heart. Okay. The system responded. Soon, Suyi found that the introduction of the 6 veins divine sword appeared in his mind, and in the end, it was directly in place, perfectly controlling this skill. The 6-pulse sword that I have in this world is indeed very different from the 6-line sword that I know in the novels of my previous life. Suyi digested the 6 veins divine sword in his mind and sighed in a low voice. Rather than saying that the difference is too big, it would be better to say that this is actually just a name for the 6 meridians Excalibur. System, is there any other task next? Suyi asked. If there are 2 more fat and oily tasks, he will naturally be happy. The system did not reply to him and remained silent. System. Suyi asked 2 more times and found that the system still did not reply to him. He understood. Okay, since there is no follow-up quest, let me see the power of the 6 meridians Excalibur. Suyi came back to his senses and stretched comfortably. Yu Guang glanced at Sun Wukong and Vegeta lying on the ground on one side, then reached out with his right hand in the void and grabbed a light saber made of air condensed into his hand. This. Seeing Suyi's action, everyone in the field was blind, not understanding what move it was. Suyi waved the lightsaber in his hand, and it flashed brightly. With his thoughts, the light changed from gold to red, and then to blue. Interesting, funny. Suyi laughed, and had an inexplicable love for this 6-merged sword. Seeing that Suyi seemed to be playing, Thin Boo's face became gloomy. As a freshman Boo, he believed that his strength was absolute, and he could easily crush everything. Mouth wave. Thin Boo opened his mouth, and then a ball of light appeared in his mouth, and then suddenly attacked Suyi. Suyi glanced at the attack indifferently, smiled disdainfully, and slashed out with the lightsaber in his hand, directly destroying the attack. Buffs of the 6 meridians divine sword, which can easily destroy Qigong cannons, energy cannons, and various attacks from anyone whose strength is lower than his combat power. 0. Drink. Suyi transformed into a state of Super Saiyan 1, with a combat power of 500 billion, flew up, and slashed at Thin Boo with a lightsaber in his hand. Seeing Suyi moving, Slim Boo's face changed, his eyes looked around, and he finally set his eyes on Piccolo and the others. Absorb. As long as I absorb these guys, maybe I can kill this guy. Thin Boo suddenly became clear at the juncture of life and death. He didn't face Su Yezhong at all, turned around and flew towards Piccolo and the others. Escape. Seeing Skinny Boo flying over, Piccolo and the others changed their expressions and hurriedly dispersed and fled. Slim Boo glanced at Piccolo, who was the closest, and then glanced at Son Gohan with a pity. In the end, a lump of pink meat was fired from his stomach, like a cannonball, and attached to Piccolo in an instant. It's happened. Shin looked back with a horrified look on his face. Uncle Piccolo. Son Gohan also looked back and saw that Piccolo turned into a pink mist and slowly drifted towards Slim Boo, and finally the mist entered the small hole on top of Slim Boo's head. Woo. At the same time, there was a happy expression on Thin Boo's face, and he let out a long mouthful of pink airflow, which slowly wrapped around his body. After a while, the airflow dissipated, and a new Boo appeared in everyone's sight. Pink skin, but wearing Piccolo's cape, his appearance is slightly the same as Piccolo. At this time, his combat power is no longer the previous 500 billion, but directly to 1 trillion. 87. Piccolo's powerful strength. Pic-Boo. Suyi smiled when he saw this new Boo, nodded and said, 1 trillion combat power is not bad, it is worth taking seriously by me in the super second form. Thinking of this Buick Boo, Suyi thought of Gohan Boo again. The 4 trillion terrifying combat power in the original book was simply too strong. If it wasn't for Gogeta, the fusion of Monkey King and Vegeta, at the current stage of the character, I am afraid it is really difficult to win this guy. Hey, how is my current strength? Big Boo jumped in front of Suyi for a moment, put his hands on his waist, and circled around him, with a hippie smile, completely lacking the attitude that a big devil should have. Boom. For his arrogance, Suyi naturally punched him without giving face, and directly knocked him flying. The state of burst gas transformed into Super Saiyan 2, and the combat power also reached 1 trillion. Gohan, 463, you take them away. Suyi took the time to shout, the next battle is probably not something they can watch on the field, or they will be killed by the aftermath if they are not careful. Sun Wukong responded, nodded and hurriedly came to Sun Wukong and Vegeta to help them up, and then quickly flew away from the place. Leave now. Shin gave Suyi and Piccolo a solemn look, turned and left. Suyi, you must do your best. Krillin gritted his teeth, then turned around and flew away. Without the presence of Kaylin and the others, Suyi also let go of his hands and fired up. Super 2's Suyi and Big Boo's fighting power is not much different, so the two of them naturally fight back and forth. Magic Light Killer Cannon. Piccolo roared, and put the index and middle fingers of his right hand on his forehead. After only a few seconds of holding his breath, his right hand stretched forward sharply, shooting out a super strong energy beam surrounded by spiral energy from his 2 fingers. Sword come. Suyi had eliminated the lightsaber in his hand before. He roared in a low voice, reached out and grabbed it in the void, and a lightsaber appeared in his hand. Laugh. With a slash forward, it was easy to annihilate Kobo, a magic penetrating light killing cannon. Fool, I'm behind you. After the magic bullet that killed Piccolo, a voice came from behind Suyi, with a strong sarcastic tone. Boom. Suyi turned his head calmly, and a shock wave hit him in the face. Too weak, too weak. In the first blow, Piccolo shook his head and sneered aloud, then rushed forward, approaching Suyi who flew out, and punched out a series of consecutive punches. Every blow hit Suyi, but Piccolo felt something was wrong, but he couldn't say what was wrong. Just like that, Piccolo bombarded Suyi for several minutes, and finally hit him on the ground with a hard punch. It seems that the skill of clone technique is quite useful. At this moment, Suyi, who was sitting cross-legged in midair, chuckled lightly. He had acquired this skill in a golden gift bag a few years ago. He thought it was a useless skill, but now that he suddenly recalled it, he tried it and found that it was quite useful. At least, this Big Boo didn't realize that this was a clone. He beat the clone for several minutes, and all kinds of energy cannons and shock cannons were bombarded with stamina-consuming attacks. Is it that weak? Piccolo flew down and came to the place where Suyi fell to the ground. Just as he looked at it, his body suddenly froze, and he turned around in surprise. Another Suyi looked at him playfully in midair. He. Piccolo's expression changed. He pointed at Suyi in midair, then tilted his head and pointed at Suyi, in the deep pit on the side, stunned. Why are there 2 of you? Besides, if it's a clone, why is he as strong as you? Although that Suyi was being beaten all the time just now, but he also fought back. In his expectation, the avatar technique does exist, but it is impossible to directly avatar with his own strength. Otherwise, this clone technique has been learned by the most powerful person. Isn't that completely invincible? Hearing Big Boo's very puzzled words, Suyi smiled without explaining anything. The reason why he thought this avatar technique was useless before was that he who came out of this avatar was just a paper tiger. What is a paper tiger? That is to look fierce and incomparable. In fact, the strength is not strong at all. As for why Big Boo felt that the clone was powerful just now, the reason was naturally because Suyi was secretly operating it. Suyi made a strong shot, and directly beat Piccolo to the ground. Soon, as he bombarded with one punch, Piccolo was directly beaten back to the prototype, and the 2 flew out of his body directly. It's Piccolo and Fat Boo. Damn. The evil Black Boo who was differentiated before roared, glanced at Suyi unwillingly, and hurriedly fled. Want to run? Suyi sneered, and a turtle Qigong wave directly killed him. In the end, Boo was the one who solved it, which made him still a little helpless. I originally planned to get more exchange points in this plot, but now it seems that this idea is not enough. Taking out 2 super fairy beans, Piccolo and Fat Boo quickly woke up. You saved me. Fat Boo looked at Suyi with a gloomy expression on his face, and it seemed that he was very entangled. Well, there should be no more evil thoughts in your body now, and then I hope you can live a good life on Earth. Suyi is not going to kill this Fat Boo. After all, he is different from the previous Demon Boo, and all the evil in his heart has been separated. Fat Boo fell silent, glanced at Suyi, and left just like that. Just let him go. Piccolo frowned and said unsurely, But Majin Buu, what if there are more killings? No. Suyi glanced at the back of Boo who was leaving and smiled. Only he understands why this guy won't add more killings for no reason. First, his evil is gone. Second, according to the original plot, the encounter between Boo and Satan is inevitable. 3.0. Although the plot of Boo's length was forcibly accelerated by him, what should happen will always be arranged by itself. It's like it was supposed to be transformed into Super Saiyan 3 in this event, and the integrated Gotenks and the mysterious Gohan, and even Gogeta did not appear. But Suyi understands that these things that should appear will always have the opportunity to appear. Suyi moved away from this place in an instant, but what he didn't know was that after he left, a small ball of dark meat was slowly wriggling in the cracks of a pile of stones. Suyi, I will definitely absorb you. A whisper sounded between the stones, and the voice was full of endless resentment. 88. What can you get out of 100 silver level gift packs? In the subsequent whispers, Suyi didn't know, he actually thought that Demon Boo was slaughtered by him. At this time, he had returned to the western capital. Since Majin Buu was slaughtered by Suyi not long after he appeared, there was no crisis in the whole earth. Back home, the little girl Luli was not at home, nor were Bulma and the others. Suyi thought for a while, then came to the living room to open the gift bag. 100 silver level gift packs are enough for him to open slowly. The first silver package, 10,000 exchange points, Tathagata Palm. Buddha's Palm. WOC. The first silver level gift package has this kind of magic skill, it's just crazy. Suyi vaguely remembered that when he was a child, he had seen the martial arts of the Star Master, and he was very longing for the palm technique that fell from the sky. Now, so he has that set of Tathagata's palms. Learn Tathagata Palm. Suyi's heart was fiery. If it was really the 25 sets of Tathagata's palms in Kung Fu, and it was reasonable, then he could try the palms that fell from the sky. Soon, many introductions and moves came to mind. The first form, the Buddha's light appears at the beginning, and the Buddha's light is released in the start hand style, which can temporarily blind the enemy, and at the same time make the opponent float weightless, making it difficult to resist. The second style, the golden-topped Buddha lantern, the starting style urges a small fireball, and the fire is released when the shot is officially launched. While the palm strength is amazing, it can also release Buddha fire in the opponent's body. The third style, foe-moving mountains and rivers, the most powerful style of the first 4 styles, there are no special skills. Fourth form. Fifth form. ... Until the 9th form, the words Tathagata's palm in the question made Suyi nod and laugh. Yes, there is time to perform a wave of palms that fall from the sky. Suyi closed his eyes and began to control it perfectly. Whether it is the exercises or skills drawn from this gift package, or the exercises and skills exchanged, it is very easy to achieve perfect control as long as you learn them. Soon, the palm of the Tathagata was perfectly controlled by Suyi. Drop drop. As soon as he opened his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief, the communication device rang, which made him lose the idea of continuing to open the second silver level gift package. Brother Suyi, is Majin Buu dead? It was a call from Sun Wukong with the help of the communication equipment of the Turtle Fairy. Well, dead. Suyi nodded. Huh, this guy is really strong. But it's a pity, I can't be too weak now. If I am stronger, I will definitely increase my strength by a lot against him. Sun Wukong sighed, feeling very pity. Suyi heard this, coughed twice, and said, when I'm busy with this period of time, I'll give you a good training session. It's not just you, Vegeta, Son Gohan, Trunks and Goten. They all come to me to give you a good training session. Quote. Sun Wukong's eyes lit up and he said, yes, I feel like I can go up a level again. Ha ha ha. Sun Wukong is still very sure of Su Yi's strength. After all, he is still Su Yi's apprentice and has learned a lot from Su Yi. Okay, you come to me when the time comes. Su Yi said lightly. The phone of the communication device hung up, and then Su Yi thought for a while, opened the system space, and opened the silver level gift package again. The remaining 99 silver gift packs, he hoped to be able to open very good things. After all, the first silver gift bag gave out the perverted and powerful palm technique of Tathagata God Palm. Immediately after, the second silver level gift package was opened soon. But it seems that the first silver level package lost all his luck, and the next 49 silver level packages didn't work well. It's very stiff. I thought I could continue the good luck before, but it turned out that I even opened 49 silver level gift packs, which are all useless things. Su Yi felt a little uncomfortable, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he couldn't blame others for bad luck. The remaining 50 silver price gift packs, Su Yi, are not going to be opened again. He is going to find a good day to open them again. As for which day is a good day, he does not know. But he knew that today's good luck should have been used up, so today's follow-up time is definitely not a good day. Back in the training room, Su Yi began to practice. With his current proficiency in perfect biming divine art, he is currently cultivating very fast. Coupled with the time acceleration of the time house, his practice is even more terrifying. Soon after, he was going to ask Sun Wukong and the others to enter the time house to practice, and he would give them the cultivation method of biming magic. But he certainly can't give Sun Wukong all the exercises of their stages. Not to mention the second and third stages, even the first stage is enough for them to spend time to control it. 3 days have passed like this. Su Yi's combat power has skyrocketed, but there must be a higher level. Then ask Su Yi to fight the first appearance of Majin Buu. He is confident that even if he does not become a Super Saiyan, he can kill Majin Buu with his full power. Of course, this will definitely take some effort. During these 3 days, Su Yi tried the Tathagata palms, and he found that this set of palms was indeed very powerful. Light releases this palm technique with his normal combat power, and the resulting power can definitely easily destroy the entire Earth. Don't forget, he has a system mall space, which can be exchanged for a magic circle. This magic circle can detect the destructive power of the palm technique he uses. The result is very simple. That is, a light 950 can destroy the entire Earth. You know, this is the Tathagata palm that he uses under his normal state. Just imagine, if he transforms into Super Saiyan 1, and uses this set of palm techniques, how terrifying the power will be. Can't imagine, can't imagine. On this day, Sun Wukong and the others came to Su Yi's house. Su Yi glanced at the audience and frowned. Because he didn't see any sign of Son Gohan, he asked, Wukong, where did Gohan go? He is very interested in Mystery Gohan. If Son Gohan succeeds in becoming Mysterious Gohan, then he has found an opponent. Gohan. Sun Wukong was stunned for a moment, looked back at everyone, and indeed did not see Sun Wufan. His brows were also furrowed. At this moment, an evil aura came from afar. Did you feel it? Su Yi narrowed his eyes and said. It's such a powerful breath, and it's also very evil. Sun Wukong nodded. Let's go and have a look. Su Yi's eyes narrowed. The breath just now was very similar to that of the evil Buu who was slaughtered by him 3 days ago. In addition, Sun Wufan was gone now, which made him have some guesses in his heart. Will it, absorbed by this evil Buu and turned into Gohan Buu? 89. Fight Gohan Buu. 4th more asking for subscription. Soon, Su Yi and the others came to the place where the evil aura erupted. Sun Wukong looked at a person in the distance, his brows furrowed. Is he Majin Buu or who? Vegeta folded her arms across her chest and stared coldly at the guy in the distance. Wearing the martial arts uniform of Son Gohan, but it looks like Buu. Suyi also looked at it and found that this Buu was different from the original. In the original book, Gohan Buu has pink skin, and this Gohan Buu has black skin. And this black Gohan Buu is very powerful. Suyi recalled that Gohan Buu in the original book had a combat power of 4 trillion, but now this black Gohan Buu has a combat power of 6 trillion. If it wasn't for the fact that his strength had risen to a higher level in the past 3 days, he might not have been able to fight this black Gohan Buu. Ha ha ha, are you here? This Sun Wukong is really powerful. Suyi, I know your name. If I can absorb you, I'm afraid no one in the entire universe will be my opponent. Black Gohan Buu's sensory power is very amazing, and Suyi actually knew their existence the first time they arrived. At this moment, with just one step, this guy instantly crossed a distance of 1 kilometer to reach the crowd and spoke coldly. Huh. Hearing this, Suyi smiled coldly. If it was really 3 days ago, he really might not have beaten this black Gohan Buu. But now, hee, easy crush. With one hand, Tathagata's palm, made this guy fall to his knees in minutes. Wukong, leave here first. Suyi turned his head and said, stay far away, you can't bear the aftermath of a battle of this level. Brother, this will be a very exciting duel. I will use the magic circle to isolate this place. You can watch it carefully, and then in turn gaining combat experience, and also how my Super Saiyan 3 transformed into a successful. Quote. In the state of Super Saiyan 3, it is not easy to teach Sun Wukong, because it requires one's own understanding and the strength of the body to be able to transform successfully. In the original work, Sun Wukong became Super Saiyan 3 because he died without any physical limitations in hell, and his own strength exploded. And Suyi's Super Saiyan 3 is entirely because of his unlimited physical strength, because he has a lot of super fairy beans to supply his unlimited physical strength. In addition, Suyi's physical strength is very powerful, so he can transform into Super Saiyan 3. Brother Suyi, be careful. Sun Wukong said very solemnly, and then flew away from the place. Suyi nodded, then waved his hand, and the isolation circle he exchanged covered the entire island. As for Vegeta, they flew into the sky and quietly watched. This will indeed be a very exciting battle, and the strength of the two completely exceeds the standard of combat power they know. Soon, without much to say, Suyi and the Black Gohan Buu started fighting. Basically, the pair of punches between the two collapsed and the surrounding mountains all collapsed. All kinds of energy waves, Qigong waves bombarded, very terrifying. You must know that this is because Suyi's magic circle has restrained the more powerful explosive power. Otherwise, just by the collision of the two against the waves, the entire Earth can be easily blown up. Gohan Buu with 6 trillion combat power is indeed powerful, and Suyi, who transformed into Super Saiyan 2, was suppressed and beaten from start to finish. This scene changed the expressions of Sun Wukong and others in the sky. Big Brother Suyi hasn't transformed into a Super Saiyan 3, so everything is still possible. Don't worry everyone, I believe Big Brother Suyi will be able to defeat this guy. Seeing that Piccolo and the others were not looking very well, Sun Wukong began to comfort him. Hearing Sun Wukong's consolation, Vegeta snorted coldly, and then focused on the battle on the field. Suyi is indeed strong, and Vegeta feels that he has learned a lot just by watching his Super Saiyan 2 state and fighting Gohan Buu. Soon, Suyi in the field gasped, and the lightning around his body became more violent, and then his blonde hair slowly grew longer. After a while, as his combat power became more and more terrifying, Suyi finally completed the transformation of Super Saiyan 3. It's terrifying, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Ha ha ha, it seems that if I absorb you, then I will definitely be invincible. When Gohan Buu saw that Suyi's strength was so powerful, he suddenly laughed out loud, his eyes became very sharp at this moment, and the airflow around his body turned into a black airflow, which slowly fluttered around his body right. Diaresis ha. Suyi just sneered at Gohanbu's inflated words. The combat power of 6 trillion may be very powerful, but Suyi is not bad. In the state of Super Saiyan 3, his combat power is almost close to 8 trillion. If the firepower is full, I am afraid that his combat power will definitely be able to compete with the existence of 10 trillion combat power. However, if there are people with 10 trillion combat power, there should be no one so far. After all, after the Dragon Ball Z plot, according to the plot of the old man, the follow-up should be the plot of Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super's combat power is not very clear, and we can only roughly guess what level of strength each person is. While Suyi was thinking, the black Gohanbu moved. A sudden impact punched him with a punch. Bang bang bang. The fists of the two collided, and then there were bursts of explosions. Absorb, absorb, absorb you. Gohanbu stuck in front of Suyi, and then the antenna-like thing on his head suddenly twisted and rushed towards Suyi's head. Sword come. Suyi shouted loudly, and was no longer going to waste time with this guy. He stepped back a little distance, and grabbed his hand in the void, and soon a lightsaber condensed in his hand. Scum. Suyi smiled coldly. As long as his lightsaber, which is formed by the skill of the 6 veins Excalibur, penetrates any part of Gohanbu's body, then Gohan will fly out of Bu's body. Once Gohanbu's fusion state is removed, Suyi can directly kill this guy. This time, he naturally won't be so careless, and he is absolutely confident that he can smash the scumbag of Majin Buu. 90. Suyi, who has initially stepped into the realm of God. Chapter 5 for subscription. The antenna-like thing on the top of Gohanbu's head had already struck, and Suyi raised his hand and slashed it down with a sword, directly severing the antenna-like thing. Ah! Gohanbu screamed in pain, and then he saw Gohan, absorbed by Buu, flying out of his body. Then, a black light flickered, and Majin Buu became that black skinny Buu. Looked at Suyi in horror. Die! Suyi's eyes narrowed, and he lifted the lightsaber in his hand and threw it in the air, then pointed at the black skinny Buu, and the lightsaber burst out with an astonishing ray of light and rushed towards him instantly. Puff! The lightsaber sank into the black skinny Buu's chest. Suyi flew into the sky, and slapped it down with a slap. It was the palm technique that fell from the sky. With this slap, Majin Buu completely disappeared from the world. Yeah! Seeing this scene, Klein and the others in the sky suddenly became excited, and even Vegeta had a smile on his face. In front of Sun Wukong, who had passed out, Suyi crouched down and took a look, and found that he was not injured, but was simply absorbed once. I fed him a super fairy bean. After a while, Sun Wukong woke up with an embarrassed look on his face. Uncle Suyi, it's all my fault for being too weak. 353. Have time to practice hard. Don't seek to surpass anyone. At least, don't be afraid of a crisis. Suyi thought for a while, reached out and patted his shoulder, then smiled. Well, I will. In this incident, Sun Wukong suddenly understood a truth. Shuiwen cannot save the world, let alone protect his family. Only when you are strong can you protect those you want to protect. ... This incident has been resolved for a short time, and then Suyi understands that it is enough to wait quietly for the arrival of the god of destruction Beerus. The plot of Dragon Ball Super is what Suyi is most looking forward to. The power of Beerus, the power of Whis, and the guys like Jiren are all masters. Of course, the premise is that the plot really follows that old man's plot. Otherwise, it is still possible to follow the plot of Dragon Ball GT. But no matter what kind of ending, Suyi is supportive. After all, it is the Dragon Ball he likes. In the following time, Suyi practiced by himself, and even instructed Monkey King Vegeta and the others to practice. In the first month of Majin Buu's death, Sun Wukong, who had practiced the first stage of Baiming's magical power and the power of dominance, successfully transformed into Super Saiyan 3. Immediately after the second month, Vegeta, who practiced the same technique, also successfully transformed into Super Saiyan 3. However, unlike the Super 3 forms of Sun Wukong and Suyi, his hair has not grown longer, and it remains as he is. In this regard, everyone at that time, including Vegeta himself, felt that he had not become successful. In the end, if it weren't for the skyrocketing combat effectiveness, I'm afraid he really didn't believe it. In the third month, with Suyi's roar, everyone including Sun Wukong couldn't help shaking. Immediately afterwards, they were surprised to find that Suyi's breath disappeared. "Brother Suyi, why can't I feel your breath?" Sun Wukong came and asked in shock. "This is the realm of God." Suyi shouted and turned into a Super Saiyan Blue, with blue light rising all over his body, and his hair was no longer golden, but blue. My God! Afterwards, Vegeta and the others were instantly stunned when they saw Suyi's transformation. "Uncle Suyi, what's your fighting strength?" Son Gohan asked suddenly. 1 trillion is equal to 1 trillion combat power, and now my strength is 100 trillion. Suyi smiled. Don't look at the improvement of only 3 months. In fact, he has been practicing for more than 20 years under the time house where his time is accelerated by 100 times. It took more than 20 years for his combat power to increase to 100 trillion, which is 100 trillion. In essence, this is not too powerful. However, for Sun Wukong and others, it is terrifying and cannot be more terrifying. CFEA, when Sun Wukong and others marveled at Suyi's strength, at the same time, somewhere deep in the universe. This place is where Beerus, the god of destruction, lives. This shape is like a big conical flower pot with a tree planted in it, and Beerus lives on that big tree. It can be imagined that it is a tree. What a big tree, and there are many planets around it. In the center of the palace, a man with a very tall stature, blue-green skin and long white curly hair. The pupil and lips are purple, and the man with a large light blue halo around his neck raised his brows, and a surprised smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Ding! The man took the staff on his right hand and gently tapped it in the void, and a mirror was projected in front of him. Inside the mirror were Suyi and others on Earth. A human. No, this is a Saiyan, and he has already stepped into the realm of God. Oh, it's really amazing. Weiss looked at Suyi for a while, then stretched out his hand to cover his mouth and laughed. What a formidable little guy. Earth. It seems that when Lord Beerus wakes up, he may be able to take him to meet him. What about this gifted little fellow? ... Suyi, who was on the Earth, naturally didn't know that he had been noticed by Weiss. At this time, it had been another month since the last time he turned into Super Saiyan Blue. He thought that he could relax at this stage, but when everyone gathered on Turtle Immortal Island on this day, the sudden appearance of Frieza and his son made him stunned. Shouldn't all 3 of them be dead? Why, suddenly resurrected? Oh hoo. Monkey King, Vegeta, and you stinky reptiles, King Frieza, are back. The Frieza father and son got off the spaceship and looked down at the people on Turtle Immortal Island with an indifferent attitude. Frieza, how could you possibly be alive? Sun Wukong frowned and asked strangely. Oh ho, because I'm Frieza, I'm resurrected. Frieza laughed wickedly. Oh, what if we're resurrected? Do you think we're still the same as we were? Vegeta sneered and stood up with a powerful aura. Hey, Vegeta, a dog I used to be by my side. Frieza also smiled coldly, his body slowly floated in midair, his hands were slightly raised, and a powerful breath rose up around him. Suyi felt this breath, and raised his brows. Good guy, Frieza's talent is really strong. Before he died, he couldn't even beat Super Saiyan 1, so his combat power is estimated to be comparable to Super Saiyan 2. However, this kind of strength is far from being beaten by the current Z fighters. Not to mention Vegeta, it is Sun Wushan, the 2 little guys of Tamanx can match him. 91. One-day trip to the 3-person room of the Kurdish king and his son. Dog. Vegeta smiled coldly. In his eyes, a scum like Frieza, after so many years, still has the same strength, and has not made great progress, and still has the face to say such things. I can stab you to death with a single finger. Vegeta flew up and transformed into Super Saiyan 1 state, amazing momentum. This Frieza's strength is equivalent to Super 2, only equivalent to Suyi's previous Super 2 strength. Today is different from the past, Vegeta Light is in Super 1 state and easily beats this guy. What a big breath. Frieza sneered, swept out of the corner of the eye, saw Trunks, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and at the same time, his face overlapped with the shadow of Trunks who killed his father and son a few years ago. Change. Are you that guy? The Kurdish king on the side also suddenly saw Trunks, his eyes widened, and he exclaimed. For the guy who killed him a few years ago, the Kurdish king was angry for a long time, and it was for him to hone his strength in hell. Now he is resurrected for revenge. Father, I'll kill that guy. Beulah, who was on the side, suddenly narrowed his eyes and looked at Suyi, pointing at him in a cold voice. Small thing, with your crazy level of practice in hell, you can definitely torture these guys to death now. The Kurdish king said lightly. Just as he finished speaking, a cold wind hit him. He shuddered and continued to ask in astonishment, why is the weather on this earth so abnormal? It's hot and cold for a while. A bunch of idiots, look at that guy behind you. Ha ha ha. The inexplicable joy is really funny. He died again after being resurrected. I'm afraid this guy feels uncomfortable in his heart. Sun Wushan and Trunks rolled on the ground with their stomachs in their arms. Tears of laughter came out. Klimbik and others couldn't help but laugh for a while, feeling sad for this guy. What? King Kurd and Frieza turned around and saw a headless corpse floating in the air. This scene was extremely strange. Beulah, Beulah. The Kurdish king finally came back to his senses, his face changed, he reached out and hugged his son's body, and looked around, where is my son's head? If he has a head, he feels that there is still a chance to save Beulah. If he has no head, I am afraid that in 2 minutes, the functions of the body will be completely cold, and I am afraid that I really have to go back to hell. Compared with the one-day trip to the world during the Monkey King Boo period in the original book, this Beulah is the real one-day trip to the world. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. The Kurdish king roared, and turned around, his skin turned white and silver, and it did look a little overpowering. He's transformed. When Sun Wukong saw this scene, he immediately became interested, flew from the ground, flew to the side of the Kurdish king, circled around, praised him, and finally knocked on the head of the Kurdish king, who was almost furious. The sound of dong 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 sounded. Not only Sun Wukong was stunned, but the Kurdish king himself was also stunned. Ha ha ha. Everyone on Guixian Island burst into laughter inexplicably, and Suyi couldn't help laughing. This kid Sun Wukong is really naughty. Okay Wukong, get rid of these two guys, let's continue to the barbecue. Suyi shouted, this kind of scum-like character, where did he like it? He led Xiaoluli, who was secretly drinking yogurt next to him, to the barbecue. Bulma's 3 daughters don't like such occasions very much, and they also have their own busy affairs, so they basically don't go out with Suyi for such small gatherings. Dad, give me some oil and I'll brush this chicken wing. Su Luli gave a crisp cry. Where is it? I'm coming. Suyi rolled up his sleeves and worked hard. Casual, ignorant, indifferent. The Kurdish king and Frieza in the sky showed monstrous killing intent on their faces, but when they were just about to kill, Vegeta and Sun Wukong shot at the same time. Spike. A very simple energy cannon instantly killed Frieza and King Kurd. Sad, what a great sadness. The turtle immortal on the island shook his head and sighed. When he turned around, 2 bloody arrows suddenly appeared from his nose. Ask for flowers katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Dear little girl, why haven't I seen you before? A beautiful woman in a blue bikini swayed in front of a mortal turtle, and he immediately provoked him and reached out to grab it. A mortal turtle, you must be too lustful. With a bang, a cloud of smoke came out of this bikini beauty, and then turned into a pig, not oolong or who. Damn, what's that about you? Where's my bikini girl? The turtle immortal was furious and had an uncomfortable look on his face. A little bit. My Oolong is your bikini little sister. Oolong jumped on the spot, and then transformed into the bikini beauty just now. I'm going to kill you. Turtle immortal roared angrily, then took his crutches and chased the bikini beauty who turned into Oolong. As for the guy Oolong, he kept screaming in the appearance of a beautiful woman, which made Immortal Turtle even more angry, and then kept chasing and beating. Ha ha ha. This little farce made everyone laugh, and the atmosphere was very harmonious for a while. Suyi looked up at the spaceship in the sky, thought about it, and pointed it out, which directly turned the spaceship into a gorgeous firework. It's a pity, it would have been better at night. Su Luli glanced at it and smiled. Does Xiao Luli like it very much? Dad will show you a grand fireworks show that night. Suyi reached out and rubbed Xiao Luli's head and smiled. At this moment, the Eastern Realm King Xin and Jabit suddenly appeared. Mr. Suyi, Mr. Sun Wukong, Mr. Vegeta and everyone. Xin slowly fell, with a look of sadness on his face, and said, I didn't need to trouble you, but who knew that the evil existence would evolve? The group of people he said were all confused, only Suyi's eyes flashed, thinking of the inexplicably resurrected Frieza, and subconsciously asked, is it Xie Nianbo? Huh. Seeing that Suyi actually knew, Xin immediately came over, bowed to him, and said in surprise, Mr. Suyi knows this evil existence. 92. The birth of Xie Nianbo, teach Wukong fusion technique. Well, I heard something. Suyi nodded lightly, seeing that the eyes of the people around him were all on him, and continued, Xie Nianbo is a collection of evil in the entire universe, and it was born in the past, but recently this Xie Nianbo is still in a new state, it should not be, wouldn't it be too powerful? Suyi had never been born before, and Suyi didn't know it at all. All he said was just bragging, to cover up what he just said he knew about Xie Nianbo. After all, he just said Xie Nianbo's name just now, and he just said it subconsciously. If he doesn't explain it, it's easy to make people suspicious. Hearing Suyi's words, everyone was shocked. This just finished fighting an evil demon Boo, and now another wave of evil thoughts has emerged. This earth is really full of disasters. They are thinking that if there is no 957 on the earth, then the earth may not know how many times it will be destroyed. Thinking of this, Sun Wukong's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said, Master Dongji Wangshan, may I ask how strong this evil mind wave is? He is very powerful, and Majin Buu is no match for him. Xin looked at Sun Wukong with a dignified expression. The key is that he will evolve. I thought he only had the first form. At that time, we could barely fight against him. Now he has suddenly evolved into the second form. No one is his opponent. Quote. Hearing this, Sun Wukong showed more fighting intent on his face, and Vegeta did the same, and the whole person was full of fighting intent. Brother Suyi, why don't we take action and kill this evil thought? Sun Wukong said very excitedly. Hearing this, Suyi glanced at Sun Wukong, who was extremely excited, and Vegeta, who was looking at him. In case I teach you a very powerful spell. This very powerful calligraphy is naturally a fusion technique. If Sun Wukong and Vegeta are fused, it will be Wujita, and the combat power will increase by hundreds of times. If Suyi remembers correctly, Gogeta in the Super 2 state has a combat power of 20 trillion, and a combat power of 20 trillion is 20 trillion. If it is Gogeta in the Super 3 state, it should be at least 100 trillion combat power. This strength can already be compared with the current Suyi. Therefore, Gogeta with a combat power of 100 trillion can be said to be invincible at the current stage, and no one can beat him. No matter how powerful that evil thought wave is, Suyi can only remember a maximum of 1 trillion, that is, 1 trillion combat power. Comparing the two, it is clear at a glance who is stronger and who is weaker. What powerful spell! Sun Wukong and Vegeta spoke at the same time, their faces full of excitement. They have learned a lot from Suyi in recent years, and they naturally know that he is full of treasures, and if he can call him a very powerful thing, it must be very powerful. Fusion technique. Su Yi laughed. Fusion. Hearing these 3 words, Sun Wukong and Vegeta were slightly taken aback. Fusion technique. Mr. Su Yi, are you talking about the fusion technique of the Metamorians? As the king of the Eastern Realm, Shin naturally has heard too many secret techniques. He has also heard of this fusion technique, but according to rumors, isn't this race already destroyed? So, how did Mr. Su Yi find out? Yes, it is the unique secret technique of this race of Metamorans. Su Yi nodded, not surprised that the Eastern Realm King Shen Shin knew the fusion technique. What is this fusion technique? Sun Wukong is very curious. This fusion technique is performed by 2 people dancing a strange left-right symmetrical dance, and then 2 people stretch out their hands with 1 finger on each other, and they fuse into one person's fusion technique. Su Yi opened his mouth and said, then walked to the open space and started dancing fusion dance in front of everyone. This weird dance made everyone laugh out loud. After the fusion dance, Su Yi smiled awkwardly, and then asked Sun Wukong with a sullen face, did you see the dance I danced just now? Hearing that Su Yi's tone was not very good, Sun Wukong scratched his head, nodded solemnly, and said with a smile, Brother Su Yi, please rest assured, I have already remembered the dance just now, and I will join Vegeta in a moment. I'll show you the demonstration again. Hey, who wants to do such a shameful dance move with you? Hearing Sun Wukong's words, he carried the guitar, his face changed, his hands clasping his chest suddenly put down, then looked at Sun Wukong, and said coldly, if you want to dance, dance yourself, I won't dance anyway. How could such a shameful dance move allow the arrogant him to do it? Su Yi smiled and didn't care, because Sun Wukong remembered that, anyway, when the 2 of them were at a critical juncture of life and death, they would naturally have to let Vegeta do such a dance move. A wave of evil thoughts with a trillion combat power, it is absolutely impossible to fight one-on-one with the strength of 2 people. Even if 2 people fight one, it is very difficult. At that time, in a desperate situation, Su Yi didn't believe that Vegeta would not give up his shame and make this very shameful dance fusion technique with Sun Wukong. Master Dongji Wangshan, take us to find this evil thought wave. Sun Wukong also knew Vegeta's character, and he didn't care anymore, he told Shin Dao. Okay. Shin nodded, then waved his right hand, a passage appeared in front of everyone, smiled and said, this is a space ability that only gods can use, Mr. Goku and Mr. Vegeta come with me. Sun Wukong and Vegeta greeted everyone, and Xian Shin stepped into the space passage. Don't Mr. Su Yi watch 0.5. Compared with Monkey King and Vegeta, Shin believes more in Su Yi's strength, so he asked this question. No need, Goku and Vegeta are strong enough. Su Yi waved his hand, the 2 would naturally choose to fuse if they couldn't fight. Once Vegeta came out, if they couldn't eliminate the evil thoughts wave, then it would be a real joke. Not to mention, the current Vegeta is not simply transformed in the form of Super 2, but in the form of Super 3. Okay. Seeing that Su Yi believed so much in Monkey King and Vegeta, Shin felt much more settled down, said, goodbye, and then entered the space passage with Jabit. 93. Handsome but 3 seconds Vegeta, difficult battle. At this time, the Monkey Kings who entered the space passage came to the underworld. Where is the evil thought wave? Sun Wukong shouted, put his hand on his forehead, and looked around. Kakarot, can you stop being such an idiot? Vegeta glanced at him and felt that this guy didn't look like a strong man at all. Hey. Sun Wukong didn't get angry after being scolded, he touched the back of his head and laughed humbly. Suddenly, a powerful breath burst out not far away. I found you. Sun Wukong and Vegeta's eyes lit up at the same time, tilted their heads to look at the same position, and said a word in unison. Yeah, Vegeta, the 2 of us still have a tacit understanding. Ha. Sun Wukong laughed. Oh, this momentum is so powerful, don't die in a while. Vegeta snorted coldly, rose from the ground, and flew towards the powerful breath that burst out just now. Wait for me, Vegeta, you can't grab my opponent first. Sun Wukong also flew up and lowered his head to the Eastern Realm God. Shin said, Lord Realm God, this level of battle is too easy to hurt you, so you should leave here first. Hearing this, Dongji Wang Shenshin showed a wry smile on his face, nodded and said, then you must be careful, if you are not the opponent of this evil thought wave, you must remember to use fusion or escape. Don't worry. Sun Wukong waved his hand, turned around, and frowned. This guy Vegeta has already burst into a fight with people, and from the chi he feels, the person with the evil aura has firmly gained the upper hand. Vegeta, you have to wait for me. Sun Wukong understood that the two of them would definitely not be able to beat this wave of evil thoughts one-on-one. To fight one, maybe try it. If that doesn't work, I'm afraid the two have only one choice, and that is fusion. Soon, Sun Wukong arrived at a place similar to a candy house, with giant candies floating in the sky all around. At this moment, Vegeta was being swayed in the sky by a very long hand grabbing her neck. And an ugly-looking monster smiled and looked very excited. Vegeta. Sun Wukong roared and flew over quickly. However, Xie Nianbo suddenly turned his head in midair, glanced at Sun Wukong, and spewed out light cannons from his mouth. Boom! One after another light cannon exploded on Sun Wukong, causing a burst of smoke. Another one who is not afraid of death. No, I should say, another fun toy. Xie Nianbo grinned, and then the Vegeta in his hand shook a few times in the air and finally dropped it in a pile of iron thorns. Vegeta. The smoke dissipated, revealing the figure of Sun Wukong. He saw where Vegeta had fallen, his expression changed, and he hurriedly flew towards him, trying to save him. Call out. In an emergency, fortunately, Sun Wukong can move instantly. After using it, he immediately came to Vegeta and helped him to land safely. Kakarot, mind your own business. Vegeta gritted her teeth tightly, sweating profusely, her face stained with blood. She raised her head slightly and said indifferently, I don't need you to save me. Ah, I know. Sun Wukong smiled, turned his head to look at the evil thoughts wave floating in the air, and said solemnly, besides the guy from Majin Buu, this is the second evil guy that makes me feel that it is difficult to defeat. But, it's really exciting. Sun Wukong got up slowly, and the evil thoughts wave over there slowly fell from the sky, slowly approaching them. At the same time, on the Earth Turtle Immortal Island, in order to satisfy Piccolo and the others, Suyi exchanged a mirror-mapped spell, and then revealed the current battle in the underworld. Vegeta The lens in the mirror was on Vegeta, who was seriously injured, which gave Piccolo and the others a bad premonition. How long after they left, Vegeta was beaten like this? Dad. Trunks looked at Vegeta in the mirror with a worried look on his face. Beside him was a woman with long blue hair, who was Vegeta's wife Elu. The woman's face is also very worried now, and she is secretly praying that Vegeta will be safe. Don't worry, you can only grow in adversity. Suyi comforted. Also, I taught them the strongest technique, but they haven't used it yet. So, don't worry too much. Hearing Suyi's comfort, the group relaxed slightly. After all, even if Sun Wukong and the others couldn't beat him, at least Suyi was still here. If the two of them were really going to be killed, no one would believe that Suyi would sit back and ignore it. At this time, Vegeta in the mirror stood up from the ground, gritted her teeth and glanced at Sun Wukong, and said coldly, do you still have super fairy beans on you? Although he thinks that his strength is not comparable to this evil thought wave, he feels that it is impossible for him to be so unbearable. He must have been too inflated and underestimated the other party before. No. Sun Wukong shook his head. At this time Xie Nianbo had already approached them 200 or 300 meters. Drink. Sun Wukong hurriedly transformed into Super Saiyan 3. In this state, his strength is similar to the previous thin cloth 527 euros, more than 500 billion. This is already very powerful, but it is still not enough for him to fight in front of the evil thought's wave of 1 trillion combat power. Useless, useless. Xie Nianbo rushed over, not only blasting a few shock cannons at Sun Wukong on the road, but also scattered, and some flew towards Vegeta. Vegeta, be careful. Sun Wukong reminded. I know, I don't need your reminder. This guy Vegeta is probably the most arrogant man in the Dragon Ball world. Perhaps to a certain extent, this kind of personality is completely the arrogant double ponytail girl in the lowly anime. Of course, this is just a metaphor. Shish. At this moment, Xie Nianbo stretched out a finger and swiped lightly towards the void, followed by laser cannons appearing one after another, bombarding Sun Wukong and others. Damn it. This guy is too strong. Sun Wukong, who is in the Super 3 state, roared angrily. In this situation, let alone defeating this evil thought wave, it is difficult to say whether he can accept this guy and survive. 94. Fusion failed. Leftovers are empty. Oops, the strength of this evil thought wave is too strong. At this time, the hearts of most people on Guixian Island were raised. Suyi pursed his lips and did not explain any further. He believes that when Gogeta appears, I am afraid these guys will be boiling excited. In the underworld, the laser cannon released by Xie Nianbo was gone, Sun Wukong was still normal, and Vegeta fell to the ground. Vegeta, are you alright? Sun Wukong ran over and asked. Damn, why did I fall first? Vegeta is furious. Every time he fights a person, he falls first, and Sun Wukong's strength is stronger than him. How does this make him feel better? Sun Wukong's expression was solemn, and he fell silent. After having known each other for so many years, the two of them knew each other's characters very well. Sun Wukong understood that it was Vegeta's pride as a Saiyan prince that made him very uncomfortable. Vegeta, don't be in a hurry, that guy Xie Nianbo is coming. Let's find a place to hide and wait for you to recover. Sun Wukong didn't feel that avoiding the battle was a cowardly act, and he stretched out his hand to help Vegeta up. Don't touch me. Vegeta roared, and then slowly got up from the ground. Vegeta. Sun Wukong looked at him suspiciously. Kakarot, fuse with me. Vegeta turned his back to Monkey King, and his voice was very indignant. You have to remember that I definitely did not voluntarily merge with you. Vegeta. Sun Wukong looked at Vegeta's back, shouted softly, and was about to laugh, but a figure suddenly flew down from the sky. It was Xie Nianbo. I am still in the mood to talk, hee. The evil thought's wave is another laser cannon falling from the sky, as if it is the next laser cannon rain. Escape. Sun Wukong's face changed. His index finger and middle finger were brought together a little between his eyebrows, and then he pulled Vegeta next to him and instantly moved away from the place. A few seconds later, Xie Nianbo came to the place where the two of Sun Wukong were staying just now. He glanced around and didn't feel the anger of the two, and suddenly burst out and roared. At this time, a few hundred meters away on a mountaintop. Vegeta, I'm running out of time, so I'll keep it short. Sun Wukong said solemnly. Before leaving the Earth and entering the space channel, Brother Suyi gave me a voice transmission. If the two of us can't fully agree on the chi and the fusion dance movements are not completely consistent, then the fusion will inevitably fail. Quote. I see. Vegeta slowly got up from the ground and looked at Monkey King solemnly. Do you need me to show you the fusion move again? Sun Wukong asked. No need. Vegeta replied coldly. Soon, the two kept a certain distance and stood side by side, then they stretched out their hands to face each other. Their legs were slightly bent, and they slowly moved a few steps. They shouted, fusion, at the same time. The other party bent down and stretched out a finger to meet. As the two fingertips met, a dazzling blue light burst out. At this moment, Xie Nianbo, who was far on the other side, felt the momentum and his eyes narrowed suddenly. He looked back, and a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. After a while, the blue light dissipated, and Xie Nianbo turned around and flew to the location of Sun Wukong and the two. Immediately afterwards, he looked up, and a chubby little man fell from the sky. "I'm sending you to hell." This chubby little man stood on the ground and his voice sounded like Sun Wukong and Vegeta. It should be the sound of the two. He pointed Xie Nianbo and said this sentence. At the same time, everyone on the Earth Turtle Immortal Island suddenly stared at the fused Monkey King and Vegeta. Is this the person Goku and Vegeta merged with? Piccolo was shocked. This is too funny. Ahem. They failed to merge. Suyi coughed twice. Just like the plot of the original novel, the tacit understanding between the two was still a little worse, so the fusion failed and became a defective fusion product called Beikong. Then, how about their strength after the fusion failed? Krillin exclaimed in shock. If the combat power of the two who failed to merge did not improve, what should they do in the face of the incomparably powerful wave of evil thoughts? Suyi smiled indifferently. According to the original work, although Beikong was not strong, he still resisted the evil thoughts wave for 30 minutes. At this time, the battle in the underworld began. Beikong burst out with momentum, and then rushed over with a wave of evil thoughts. Xie Nianbo was a little flustered for the first time, but when he saw Beikong rushing straight towards him stupidly, he suddenly punched out and hit Beikong in the face. And then, he punched again, knocking Beikong away again. "Ah!" screamed twice, and then Duang bounced and rolled on the ground like a meatball for a long distance. After he stopped rolling, Beikong was trying to turn over with a carp, but he couldn't. Then he slowly got up from the ground, looking at Xie Nianbo with a bruised nose and a few teeth, and said indignantly, "Diaresis, I didn't expect you to have 2 strokes. But, that's it." PFF'd. Seeing this scene, Suyi on Earth Turtle Immortal Island couldn't help but burst out laughing. Swish swish. Immediately, all eyes were on him. Ahem, sorry, this guy is too funny. Also, don't worry, Goku and Vegeta will be fine. Suyi coughed twice and said. Hearing Suyi's words, everyone didn't say much. In fact, they wanted to laugh just now, but after thinking about it, they still didn't laugh. Lord Vegeta, will take care of you, Xie Nianbo. At Xie Nianbo with tears in his eyes. He just took 2 punches, but now he is in great pain. As he spoke, he raised another finger, feeling that he was cool, and then prepared to speak harshly, but the opposite evil thought wave rushed over. Bang bang bang. Left hook, right hook, Xie Nianbo madly blasted Beikong. Ah! Beikong roared. Bang bang bang. Xie Nianbo ignored his yelling and kept punching Beikong, knocking him around in the air a few times. Puff puff. At this moment, Beikong suddenly let out a series of farts, then flicked twice on the ground, and finally pressed towards Xie Nianbo, and his butt was 2 more farts on his face. Seeing this, everyone on Guaxian Island looked at each other. You look at me, I look at you, and for a while I didn't know what to say. Is this really a fusion warrior? 95. Fusion again, Super 3 Gogeta. Damn it. In Guaxian Island, when everyone was speechless, in the underworld, Xie Nianbo turned over, roared, and then rushed towards Beikong at a speed. Bang bang bang. Xie Nianbo punched out a few more times and beat Beikong to the point where he was powerless to fight back. Beikong was sweating profusely, ran left and right, and then ran to the other side, and Xie Nianbo quickly caught up, just about to continue to beat him. Beikong pointed his evil thoughts and said coldly, "Stop, today's affairs are like this. Don't do bad things again in the future, see you tomorrow." While speaking, Beikong turned around and ran away while riding the evil thoughts wave in a daze. Huh. Xie Nianbo sneered, and then aimed at Beikong and bombarded an energy cannon. Just like that, the 2 of you chased after me, and almost half an hour passed. When Xie Nianbo was about to kill Beikong, the fusion time of the 2 ended here. Go to Vegeta. As soon as the fusion time ended, Beikong disappeared and became Sun Wukong and Vegeta, and then turned into Super Saiyan 3 and killed the evil thoughts wave. Bang bang bang. The two of you punched and I punched Xie Nianbo back. No, I still have to find a chance to reintegrate again. Sun Wukong said. Need to fuse. The fusion just now is not as strong as our respective individual units. Are you sure that fusion is useful? Bay 137 Gita was sweating profusely and said coldly. There should be a problem with the fusion method of the two of us, otherwise this cannot be the case. Sun Wukong believes in Su Yi very much, so he doesn't think that Su Yi's fusion technique is useless. At this moment, Su Yi's voice sounded in the ears of Sun Wukong and Vegeta. Vegeta's gesture was wrong just now, and fusion must stick out his index finger. Hearing Su Yi's words, Sun Wukong was stunned for a while Vegeta was very embarrassed and speechless. Stand out your index finger. My god, that would be too. Vegeta, do it again. Sun Wukong roared. Vegeta blushed and did such a shameful dance move once, and now she has to do it a second time. Boom. At this time, Xie Nianbo launched an attack again. There's no other way, I can only integrate it again and take a look. Vegeta gritted his teeth and followed Sun Wukong several hundred meters away. Xie Nianbo naturally couldn't let them escape, so he quickly caught up, but a person who suddenly appeared at this time was the Eastern Realm King Shenshin. Mr. Goku, Mr. Vegeta, hurry up and fuse. This guy will be handed over to me first. I will try my best to help CFCE you to delay the time. You try to fuse as soon as possible, and then it will be handed over to you. The Eastern Realm King Shenshin roared. Okay, Kaioshin-sama, Vegeta, let's go. Sun Wukong nodded. The two quickly flew to the top of a mountain, and Vegeta bent her legs awkwardly, ready to start merging. As for the Eastern Realm King Shenshin, as soon as he appeared, he was given a second by Xie Nianbo before he said two words. Just as he was about to kill Sun Wukong and Vegeta, a brighter light exploded in the distance. The evil thought wave who just finished solving the Eastern Realm King Shenshin looked over there, his face changed. At this time, unlike the fat and short Bei Kong who failed to fuse before. Now, with a perfectly proportioned figure, coupled with a very handsome face, amazing lightning bursts all over his body. This is... Xie Nianbo had a horrified expression on his face, and said inarticulately, what is this? At the same time, everyone on Guixian Island saw Gogeta who had successfully merged, and their faces showed a shocked expression. It's too strong, this Gogeta who has successfully merged. Piccolo exclaimed in shock that even in the human world, he could feel this astonishing and incomparably powerful aura. That's right, after Dad and Uncle Vegeta merged, the strength was overwhelming. A surprised smile appeared on Sun Wufan's face, and he saw the dawn of victory. Wu Tian. At this time, Goten and Trunks on the side began to discuss. I also think it's feasible. This fusion transformation is so cool. Wu Tian's face was full of excitement. Then let's try it now. Trunks whispered, then pulled Sun Wushan aside and started the fusion dance. Fusion. Rub. A bright light flashed out, which made the people next to him stunned for a while, and quickly turned their eyes around. When they saw a chubby little fat man, they all burst into laughter. Damn it, the fusion didn't work. However, the mighty Gotenks-sama won't give up easily, I'm a super soldier. Ah. Speaking, the inferior Gotenks roared, jumped up and punched two sets of punches, but soon became too tired, and crawled on the ground gasping for breath. Seeing this, Piccolo and the others burst into laughter again. Suyi chuckled and shook his head, and continued to look into the mirror. At this time, Gogeta pointed to Xie Nianbo and said, I'm not Sun Wukong, nor Vegeta, I'm the one who is about to defeat you. This familiar mantra sounded, and Suyi smiled knowingly. When he saw Gogeta and Vegeta appear in his previous life, let alone how excited he was. Next, let's take a good look at it. This evil thought wave can't be Gogeta's opponent. Suyi said. Jia Wang Shenshin, I will avenge you. In the underworld, Wujita's calm voice sounded, and the Eastern Realm King Shenshin, who had completely fainted, naturally couldn't hear it. Oh, arrogance. Xie Nianbo was sweating profusely. In fact, he was shocked by Gogeta's momentum, but he believed in his own strength very much, sneered, and began to prepare to attack. After the explosion, Xie Nianbo reached out to Gogeta and launched a frantic bombing. Boom. Boom. For Gogeta in the Super 3 form, the evil thought wave of 1 trillion combat power is really weak enough, and it can easily blow his shock wave away. Call out. Gogeta flew forward, punched Xie Nianbo's stomach, and then punched and kicked quickly. In the end, after kicking the evil thought's wave away, Gogeta reached out his hand with a cold face, raising his hand to look like he was preparing to make a wave. Actually, this is not a shock wave type attack, but an attack that can drive away evil. Soon, the waves in Gogeta's hands were condensed, and it was a wave of mixed colors. Xie Nianbo stared at the wave in Gogeta's hand with a gloomy expression on his face. After thinking for a while, he roared and killed Gogeta. Gogeta's expression was indifferent, and he reached out and threw the wave in his hand towards Xie Nianbo. Boom! This wave directly pierced Xie Nianbo's stomach, and soon saw him turn into a little ghost. Huh! Gogeta glanced at the kid indifferently. Ah! The kid gave a loud cry, jumped up, then turned around and ran away. Huh! Gogeta smiled as he watched the back of the kid fleeing. 96. The opportunity to break through Super Saiyan IV. It has been more than a month since the time of Xie Nianbo, and this day Suyi is ready to break through Super Saiyan IV. I'm afraid I'm basically a Dragon Ball fan, and I'm very curious about whether it is the Super Saiyan Final 4 or the Super Saiyan Blue Strong. Because Suyi had a chance to evolve the Super Saiyan 4, he wanted to wait for him to break through the fourth and compare whether it was the Super Saiyan Final 4 or the Super Saiyan Blue. However, when he asked the system, he was completely stunned. Because this actually requires him to enter the world of Dragon Ball GT himself, so as to get the opportunity to transform into Super Saiyan Ren 4. System, you must be too stupid. Suyi was unable to complain, feeling that this system was too pitiful. He said yes, how about breaking through and transforming into Super Saiyan IV? Host, you need to know that there is no free lunch in the world, so you should enter the world of Dragon Ball GT obediently. The system's sweet and beautiful voice sounded in Suyi's mind. In this regard, Suyi was very helpless, nodded and said, okay, then how do I enter the Dragon Ball GT world? Also, where do I find the opportunity to break through Super Saiyan IV? The most important thing is, can I also be able to give Sun Wukong and Vegeta a chance to become Super Saiyan 4 too? The Monkey King and Vegeta in this main world cannot transform into Super Saiyan IV. The system replied. Okay. Suyi nodded and continued. Then, let me enter the Dragon Ball GT world next. He guessed that it should only be possible to transform into Super Saiyan IV in the world of Dragon Ball GT, otherwise the system would not explain that Sun Wukong and Vegeta in this main time and space world cannot transform successfully. By the way, I entered the GT world, how is the time flow of the main time and space world calculated? Suyi suddenly asked. If the time flow of the main time and space world is the same as the time flow of the Dragon Ball GT world, then it is possible that he has been there for more than 10 years, then it has definitely passed here for more than 10 years. For more than 10 years, I am afraid it is really a matter of right and wrong. Don't worry, host, you have been in the Dragon Ball GT world for a year, and I am afraid that the main time and space world will not exceed 1 day at most. People who don't know it will only think that you are practicing. The system replied. Like this. Well, then send me into the world of Dragon Ball GT. Suyi laughed. Soon, a space channel suddenly appeared in front of him, which was a time-space tunnel that could lead to the world of Dragon Ball GT. Suyi didn't think about it at all, and walked directly into this time-space tunnel. This is still the Earth, but it is not the Western capital he is familiar with. As for where he has no time to care about, he just wants to quickly transform into Super Saiyan IV. After searching the Earth for a while, Suyi found that Goku, Vegeta and these guys all exist. I don't know if Bulma is the wife of this guy Vegeta in this plane. Suyi's eyes narrowed, and when she thought of this, she was very upset. Call out. Using the ability of teleportation, Suyi came to the western capital within a few seconds. He walked according to the road in his memory, and soon came to the gate of a villa. In his master time-space world, this is Bulma's home. If this time and space has the existence of Bulma, I am afraid it is really possible to be the wife of the Tragedy Tower. Thinking of this, Suyi rang the doorbell of the villa's gate. Soon, a man with standing hair came out. Who was it if it wasn't Vegeta? Seeing him, Suyi narrowed his eyes, revealing some killing intent. No other man could bear this situation, even if it was another time and space. Who are you? Vegeta saw Suyi at the gate and caught the killing intent just revealed, and asked coldly. Who am I? Suyi smiled coldly, loosened the tail wrapped around his waist, then swayed behind him, and said lightly, I heard that the Saiyan Prince Vegeta is very powerful, so I want to ask for advice. You're a Saiyan too. Vegeta was taken aback, because if he remembered correctly, there are currently very few people in the Saiyan family. Except for the Saiyans on the Earth, there should be only his younger brother who is far away from the Earth. And now, the appearance of Suyi really shocked him. Not to mention, the strength of this Saiyan who just came out is probably not inferior to him, and this is what Vegeta is most shocked by. System, what is the combat power of Vegeta in Dragon Ball GT world? Suyi stared at Vegeta and asked in her heart. Vegeta's current normal combat power is 700 billion, and the Super 2 combat power is 80 trillion. The system replied. Why doesn't it feel right? Suyi is a little strange. Logically speaking, the multiplier of the Super 2's increase in combat power is 100 times, so this guy's Super 2 form should be 70 trillion, right? Host, Vegeta in this world will not transform into Super Saiyan 3, so when he has a Super 2 rampage state, his combat power can reach 80 trillion. The system explained it. Hearing this, Suyi was stunned. At this moment, a voice sounded. Vegeta, who's here? Immediately afterwards, a blonde woman walked out of the villa inside. Suyi glanced at the past and was stunned. It wasn't Bulma, but his wife, Vegeta, the main time and space world, Elu. Elu, you go back first. Seeing that Suyi's eyes were on his wife, Vegeta hurriedly glanced back at Elu and scolded. Seeing that something was not right, Elu stepped forward instead of retreating, glanced at Suyi, hugged Vegeta and said, if something happens, let's face it together. When Vegeta heard this, her body trembled, and then she tilted her head and said coldly, the western capital is too small, come with me to an open place. As she spoke, Vegeta released Elu's hand and flew up. Vegeta. Elu shouted. Don't worry, I have the blood of a noble prince flowing through me. How could this guy be my opponent? Elu, wait for me to come back. After Vegeta said this, she flew away from the western capital. Suyi scratched his head on the spot. Does this guy have such a big heart? Aren't you afraid that he is a bad person and then do something to his family? Shaking his head, Suyi flew after Vegeta. This guy's combat power is 80 trillion, as long as he doesn't turn into Super Saiyan Blue, the rest of the state is a very good grinding stone for Vegeta. Therefore, Suyi naturally would not let this whetstone go. His goal is very simple. After transforming into Super Saiyan 4, he feels that his strength reaches 10,000 trillion, or 10,000 trillion combat power. 97. The Shock of Super Saiyan Blue. Chapter 6. Soon, Suyi followed Vegeta to an uninhabited island. Suyi put his hands behind his back and looked at this guy. Since there is no Bulma in this time and space, Suyi's unhappiness also disappeared naturally, and the killing intent also disappeared naturally. Now, he just wants to hone his state of Super 1, to Super 3. The last time he broke through the Super Saiyan Blue, his combat power was 100 trillion, or 100 trillion. A month later, in the super blue state, he has already reached 14 trillion combat power. This is not too fast for him, because he has more than 20 years in the house in the previous 3 months to pave the way, and his combat power after that seems to increase very naturally. Drink. Vegeta's roar made Suyi stop thinking, and his eyes shifted to him. This guy directly played Super Saiyan 2 against him. 433, huh? Suyi smiled lightly, and also burst into a loud drink, but it was not a Super 2, but a simple Super 1 state. It is said that it is tempered. How can it be possible to burst out the most powerful power? You can turn into a Super Saiyan 2. Vegeta's pupils shrank, shocked. Suyi didn't say much, made a calyx shape with his hands, and then used teleportation to come to Vegeta. This is a teleportation turtle Qigong wave, and such a quick blow made Vegetaza eat a solid wave. Turtle School Qigong wave, who are you? Vegeta quickly backed away, looking at Suyi in disbelief. It's not just the turtle Qigong wave, this Saiyan who just appeared can still use the teleportation that Sun Wukong can, which is the most shocking. When fighting, you can't desert. Suyi rushed forward and exploded instantly, transforming into Super Saiyan 2, which once again shocked Vegeta. Boom. But soon, Vegeta came back to her senses, looked at Suyi uncertainly, and said coldly, "You're right, you can't desert in battle, so let me see your true strength." Quote. Vegeta roared again and entered the Super 2 rampant state. This state was not the rampant state of Big Trunks before. The Super 2 rampant state was not only an increase in strength, but also an increase in speed. In other words, this is Vegeta's exclusive Super 2 full power state. The two fought, and they fought back and forth. At the same time, somewhere on the earth, Goku, who had been reduced by the wish of the Pilaf trio, suddenly felt the breath of Vegeta and others, and suddenly stopped practicing. Who did Vegeta fight with? The same powerful breath. Sun Wukong frowned, thought for a moment, got up and used teleportation to quickly rush to the battlefield. However, after a few breaths, Sun Wukong arrived at the battlefield and saw Suyi who was fighting with Vegeta, with a shocked expression on his face. This is a Saiyan, and he's going to transform into Super Saiyan 3. Sun Wukong stared. He thought that only he and Gotenks could transform into Super Saiyan 3, but now there is another person who can transform, which really surprised him. You know, he transformed into Super Saiyan 3 because of the right time and place, and he was able to transform successfully. And this guy, could it be that he is so lucky? Drink. The two fought on the field, and Sun Wukong couldn't hold back, turning into Super Saiyan 3 and flying over. Kakarot, what are you doing? At this time, Vegeta's nose was blue and swollen, and blood was overflowing from the corners of her mouth. When she saw Sun Wukong intervening, she burst into a loud drink. Vegeta, this is the enemy, we are friends, so I will definitely help you. Sun Wukong said with a smile. He is small and transformed into Super Saiyan 3. He looks different from the adult state. He looks domineering, but still powerful. To deal with two people at the same time, Suyi said that it would be impossible without pressure. After all, the normal combat power of Sun Wukong in the Dragon Ball GT world is 1 trillion, and when he transforms into Super Saiyan 3, with a 400-fold increase, that is 400 trillion combat power, which is 400 trillion strength. You must know that the combat power of Suyi's Super 3 state is only 100 trillion, which is not a star and a half compared to Sun Wukong's 400 trillion. Drink. In desperation, Suyi naturally had to transform into Super Saiyan Blue. The 14-fold increase in strength brought his combat power to 1400 trillion in an instant. What kind of transformation state is this Saiyan? Sun Wukong and Vegeta saw this Saiyan who had just emerged. The hair and eyebrows turned sky blue, the pupils turned fluorescent blue, and the whole body was surrounded by blue aura and star-like particles unique to the realm of the gods, and the arrogance flowed from time to time. Water droplets. And the speed of the flow of arrogance is much slower than the breath of their normal state and other states of Super Saiyan, and it has very slight electric sparks. Looking at it carefully again, The arrogance is divided into two layers of arrogance, which are sky blue and white from the outside to the inside. So cool. The two looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. This is Super Saiyan Blue, you can understand it is Super Saiyan God. Suyi said lightly. Super Saiyan Blue is upgraded from Super Saiyan Red. Suyi has never broken through Super Saiyan Red, but he has already completed his transformation, reaching an infinitely close to God's physique. So, turning into Super Saiyan Blue seems like a natural fit. Super Saiyan God. Hearing Suyi's words, the two of them were shocked again, especially Sun Wukong. He had come into contact with too many gods and knew that gods are not perceived by humans. Thinking about it carefully, the breath of this guy has indeed disappeared now, maybe. Is this guy really a Super Saiyan God? How can I reach your realm? Sun Wukong returned to normal, bowed politely, and asked. As a person who wants to practice 1.1, Sun Wukong is not willing to give up any opportunity to become stronger. You can't do it. Suyi shook his head and said lightly. Just as in Super Saiyan 4, the Monkey King and Vegeta in his time and space world can't do it, so the Sun Wukong and Vegeta in this time and space world naturally can't transform into Super Saiyan Blue. Oh, you can do it, why can't we do it? Vegeta sneered. 98. Artificial Full Moon, Suyi's Golden Giant Ape Form. Suyi smiled. This guy Vegeta is so conceited no matter what time and space he is in. To say something unpleasant is actually more of an expansion. Young people, have some respect for older people. Suyi raised his hand and slapped it out. This was just to suppress Vegeta with his physical strength, but with his strength, he could easily beat him so much that he couldn't lift his head. Ah! This guy Vegeta was screaming. It was the first time he had encountered such an unreasonable person. In fact, he should be glad that Suyi read Vegeta's old love in another time and space, and did not make a full shot. If Suyi made a full shot, with his strength, he could easily slap him to death. Vegeta, say a few more words. Sun Wukong glared at Vegeta. With Suyi's current strength, let alone the two of them, I am afraid that even under the fusion, there is no plan to win 100%. Not to mention, with Suyi right in front of them, how could it be possible for them to successfully integrate? Humph. Vegeta, who was slapped on the ground with a slap of 25, snorted coldly, and found that the power to suppress herself was much smaller, so she could not help getting up slowly. He admits that this Saiyan who doesn't know his name is very powerful, but he believes that his future is infinite. One day, his Vegeta will definitely lead the race of Saiyans to the peak of this universe and become the first race. Sir, can I ask why we can't transform into your realm? Sun Wukong was very polite, flew to Suyi, stretched out his hand and squeezed his shoulder. In this regard, Vegeta on the side snorted again, and was very disdainful of Sun Wukong's gesture. However, although he was very disdainful, his ears were pricked up a bit. Obviously, he was also very curious about this issue. Because your world and mine are worlds in different time and space. Suyi didn't hide it and told them, I am a Saiyan from another time and space. Can this help you? The real fact is actually not so, although there is such a small factor in it. It can be said that the most important reason is that this is the world of Dragon Ball GT. Although it was recognized by the old man, it was not really what he did. To put it in a cruel way, a fan is always a fan. Just like the world of Suyeju's time and space, Sun Wukong and others can only go step by step towards the strength of the original plot. As for the Monkey King of this time and space, they can only start from Super 4, Super 5, Super 6, Super 7. And go on slowly. To explain again, that is, in terms of the law of power, the follow-up of the two worlds is not the same. As for why Suyi can, it is very simple. He is a person who has jumped out of this world and belongs to the biggest variable. What? Besides this world, is there any other world? Monkey King and Vegeta expressed surprise. The concept was so incredible to them. In your world, after Super Saiyan 3, it is Super Saiyan 4. Although the increase in combat power on the original basis is not as much as that of Super Saiyan Blue, it is not much different. Suyi continued, looking up at the sky. It was still daytime, and naturally the moon could not be seen. However, he can easily create it. No, it should be said that he can exchange an artificial full moon from the system mall space. Super Saiyan 4. When Sun Wukong and Vegeta heard these 6 words, their whole bodies trembled, which was a manifestation of their extreme excitement. Sir, do you know how to transform into Super Saiyan 4? Sun Wukong asked hurriedly. Vegeta listened carefully. The news about whether she could catch up with this guy Kakarot, you can't miss it. Of course I do. Suyi directly exchanged an artificial full moon in the system mall space, then threw the full moon into the sky, and said lightly, "Don't look at this full moon, take a good look at how I transformed, this is a very important thing for you guys. Good viewing opportunity." Quote. Having said that, Suyi first pushed Sun Wukong away with a wave of his hand, and then looked up at the artificial full moon in the sky. At this moment, his dark pupils began to glow red in vain, and then as his body swelled after a while, the pupils turned completely red. Hearing Suyi's words, Vegeta and Sun Wukong naturally didn't dare to look at the full moon, and when they saw that he was about to transform into a giant ape form, their faces suddenly turned pale. With the strength of this gentleman, if he turns into a violent giant ape, wouldn't it easily destroy the entire Earth? Kakarot, what should I do? This guy is not a Saiyan with the blood of the Saiyan royal family, so he must not be able to control his tyrannical reason. Vegeta was still talking. At this time, Suyi in the sky had completely transformed into a giant ape form, but what shocked them was that it was different from their brown giant ape form. This guy turned out to be a golden giant ape. What's the matter? Why is his giant ape form golden? Sun Wukong was shocked and didn't understand what was going on. I don't know. Vegeta was also shocked. 100 forms since they turned into a Super Saiyan, so I don't know that the golden giant ape form can be transformed into gold as long as it is a Saiyan who can transform into a Super Saiyan. Giant ape form. Roar. The violent roar sounded, and the momentum skyrocketed, very terrifying. It's over. Vegeta glanced at it and found that the golden giant ape that Suyi had transformed into slammed into the void, and saw cracks open in the void. Oh my god, how terrifying is this gentleman? Is the power of this fleshly body so terrifying? Sun Wukong was stunned. It was the first time he had seen this kind of destructive power caused by the power of his flesh. At this time, Suyi in the sky glanced indifferently at Sun Wukong and Vegeta on the ground, then flew down slowly, and squatted down in front of them. When the two turned into Super Saiyans and prepared to resist, the golden giant ape incarnated by Suyi split his mouth and laughed, and then a dazzling light burst out under the shocked eyes of the two. Why did he suddenly become smaller? Sun Wukong looked up and said in shock. 99. Become a Super Saiyan IV, Suyi's plan. Roar. The last roar came from the sky. Suyi's Super Saiyan 4 was completely completed, and everything seemed to go with the flow. He felt the strength of Super Saiyan 4, and the increase was indeed 10 times that of Super 3. After all, this Super 4 was actually a Saiyan in the form of a giant ape. The giant ape has increased tenfold, and this Super Saiyan IV has naturally increased tenfold. However, this is not the key is Suyi's thoughts. That is, can we go further on the basis of Super Saiyan IV and enter the realm of God? He regained his senses, and even shrunk. Vegeta was shocked. He thought that Suyi couldn't control his reason, but it turned out that he controlled it and achieved a transformation. Is this Super Saiyan 4? Sun Wukong flew into the sky and asked in shock. That's right, this is the follow-up evolution of your space-time Super 3. Suyi nodded. Now he is covered in red body hair, looking very cool, and a long red thick tail swings behind him. He controlled his tail and patted the void, and lightning bolts appeared. The destructive power of the tail alone was probably very terrifying. It's so cool. Sun Wukong sighed, and circled around Suyi, his face full of excitement. Vegeta also flew over slowly and looked at Suyi uncertainly. It is undeniable that even he who leans towards perfectionism is also amazed at the transformation of this Super Saiyan IV. Sir, I want to ask, how did you become the Golden Giant Ape? Vegeta wanted to become stronger, so she naturally respected Suyi. Suyi glanced at him, pondered for a moment, and said, you shouldn't have been transformed into a giant ape form since you were able to transform into a Super Saiyan, right? Yes. The two nodded at the same time. Well, that's right. After being able to transform into a Super Saiyan, and then transforming into a giant ape form as the Golden Giant Ape form. Suyi opened his mouth and said, took another look at Vegeta, recalled for a moment, and continued, but Vegeta itself has the blood of the Saiyan royal family, and she can transform into the form of a giant ape without losing her sense, which will change you. It helps a lot. Quote. Hearing this, Vegeta's eyes lit up and hurriedly said, if that's the case, am I going to transform into a giant ape now? Vegeta will naturally be very excited to be able to reach Super Saiyan IV ahead of Son Goku. Don't worry, if you don't have the ability to control the power of Super Saiyan IV, then even if you transform into a Golden Giant Ape, you will not be able to transform into Super Saiyan IV. Suyi waved his hand, glanced at Vegeta, and found that his tail had been cut off long ago, and couldn't help but say, if possible, it's best to let the tail grow again. The Saiyan's tail is from your time and space. The source of Saiyan evolution. Quote. I see. Vegeta glanced at Sun Wukong. This guy returned to his childhood, and his tail also grew out. It seems that he can no longer chop off his tail in the future. Suyi felt the surging power in his body. Compared with the power of Super Saiyan Blue, the power of this Super Saiyan IV is much purer. After all, it was transformed based on the form of a giant ape. Wait. Suyi suddenly thought of a very exciting thing, that is, in this world, he can transform without limit, Super Saiyan 5, Super Saiyan 6, or even Super Saiyan 7. Thinking of this, Suyi's heart suddenly became hot. System, can I still come to the world of Dragon Ball GT in the future? Suyi hurriedly asked. Yes, host. The system returns. Nice. Suyi's eyes lit up, glanced at Monkey King and Vegeta, and said, since I have successfully transformed into Super Saiyan IV, then it is time for me to return to my time and space. Goodbye, I hope when we meet again, you have reached the realm of Super Saiyan IV. After saying this, a space tunnel suddenly appeared in front of Suyi, then waved to the two of them and stepped directly into the tunnel. Will they come in? Inside the space tunnel, Suyi glanced back, guessing whether Sun Wukong and the two were out of curiosity, and then followed him into the space tunnel. Please rest assured, host, no one except you can cross the isolation between time and space. The sweet and pleasant voice of the system continued to sound, causing Suyi to give a thumbs up in his heart. With such a powerful system, why can't he rise up? Soon, Suyi walked out of the time-space tunnel, and at this time he returned to his training room. Glancing at the time, he realized that only 2 or 3 minutes had passed. Diaresis, it's kind of interesting. In fact, it can be said that this Dragon Ball GT world is my time house. Suyi suddenly said, I remember you once said in the system that the time in the Dragon Ball GT world has passed 1 year, and the time in the main time and space world has passed 1 day at most. So, this is the ratio of the day to the year. If I am in the GT world more after a few decades, only a few dozen days have passed in this main time-space world. Quote. Hearing Suyi's words, the system fell silent for a short time. System. Suyi shouted twice. Ding. What the host said makes sense, so the system thought about it for a while. This is indeed a bug, so starting from today get it, if the host enters the Dragon Ball GT world, he can only stay for a month at most. More than a month, you can no longer enter the world of Dragon Ball GT within 1 year of the main time and space. Quote. System first made a ding, and then said such a sentence. I want to ask, can you incarnate in the system and come out and hang out in front of me? Don't worry, I promise I won't beat you up. Also, if I brought up this bug, is there nothing to compensate? The corners of Suyi's mouth twitched. He was really rude, and he even took the initiative to wake up this stupid system. Host, you don't have to be too uncomfortable, let me tell you the problem first. First, the system cannot incarnate an adult. The second is that the system will give you a compensation package for the bug reward you put forward at this time. The system's tone is still as sweet. 100. Luli, Wood tilde for the third update. Hearing that there was a compensation package, Suyi felt a lot better. After all, he has a time house in his hands, so he doesn't really need to be able to enter the world of Dragon Ball GT all the time, or even spend a lot of time. Ding, the compensation package has been sent, please pay attention to the host. The system beep sounds. Good. Suyi nodded, but he didn't see what the compensation package was for the first time. Now, he wanted to see if he could transform into a Super Saiyan IV in this main time and space. Soon, Suyi set up a magic circle to prevent his breath from leaking out. The last time he entered the realm of the gods, he was told by the system that he was spied on, and now he naturally has a mind. Drink. He has already successfully transformed in the world of Dragon Ball GT. Suyi no longer needs an artificial full moon, then transformed into a golden giant ape, and then transformed into a Super 4. With his roar, he began to change, first of all kinds of ape incarnate, and eventually become human again. Very good. The main space-time world can be transformed into Super Saiyan 4. Quote. Suyi nodded and smiled, this is very good news. Next, we have to verify whether we can add our own realm of God on the basis of Super Saiyan 4. 817 inches system, is it possible for you to say that I have this idea? Suyi asked about the system. Other people's systems don't know if there is such a possibility, but with your words, I believe there are infinite possibilities. The system replied. Haha, thank you very much. Suyi burst out laughing. This is a sure and encouraging way. Since the system is confident that he has infinite possibilities, then he also believes that he can reach an unprecedented state. I'm afraid, when he truly achieves this state, his strength will not be able to hang Binus, at least he will be able to fight with him, right? Continuing to practice, Suyi no longer thought about how to increase his combat power, but began to think about how to transform into a super race god blue on the basis of Super 4. This idea is a bit far-fetched, but he is willing to try it. With the existence of the time house, he has a lot of time to fail. At one point, he believed he could find a point and keep going. ... Just like that, the main time and space world quickly passed 2 months. During this period, Suyi entered the world of Dragon Ball GT again. What surprised him was that when he saw Sun Wukong and Vegeta again, these two guys had transformed into Super Saiyan IV, which really surprised him. But thinking about it carefully, the time flow rate of the Dragon Ball GT world is faster than that of the main time and space world, and Suyi feels normal. Even if he spends a year in the Dragon Ball GT world, it is equivalent to 1 day in the main time and space world. That is because of his existence, the flow of time will be faster. Without him, the time flow in the world of Dragon Ball GT is a bit fast, but it can't be that fast. Out of the training room, Suyi's current combat power is normally 5 trillion, which is 5 trillion combat power. Transforming into a Super 1 is 250 trillion, which is 250 trillion combat power. Super 2, 5 trillion, 500 trillion. And so on, the combat power of Super 3 will increase by 400 times. Up to now, when Suyi transformed into a Super 4, he had a strength of 20,000 trillion. Transforming into Super Saiyan Blue, it is 28,000 gigabytes of strength. This strength is simply terrifying to the extreme. However, the world's lowest level of Dragon Ball Super is based on Beijing to calculate the combat power. His strength of 28,000 gigabytes is only 2.8 capitals when converted into Beijing. If Suyi remembers correctly, Binus' combat power should be around 10 jing, and Weiss' is around 15 jing. It seems like this. In fact, the strength gap between Suyi and them is not too far away. Daddy, Daddy. As soon as she left the training room, Su Luli ran over excitedly. This girl's favorite thing is to run over, hug Suyi, and put her legs on Suyi's waist. CFDI, in fact, he told the little girl more than once, you have to pay attention when you grow up. Be more disciplined and save others from gossip. However, this little girl replies every time, whoever gossips, I will beat up. My daughter hugs her father, what's the matter? In this regard, what else can Suyi do? Why are you so happy? Suyi rubbed the little girl's head and asked with a smile. I can transform into Super Saiyan 3. The little girl was very excited and said, however, it's too ugly after the transformation. Luli doesn't like it. Ha ha ha, if you don't like it, then you won't change. Suyi laughed, then hugged the little girl and walked towards the inner courtyard of the house. However, if you don't change yourself, what if you are in danger? Xiao Luli tilted her head and pouted. Her very cute appearance made Suyi laugh again. Don't change, Dad will protect you. Hey, that Luli has been following Dad's side. Moi tilde I love you, Dad. Luli raised her head slightly and leaned up, then kissed Suyi on the cheek, happily jumped out of her father's arms, and then turned around and waved at him as she ran away. This girl, hee, she really looks like Bulma's naughty personality when she was a child. Suyi shook his head and chuckled, then stepped out and used it with teleportation, but it took a few breaths to reach a place. This is a field that has not yet been reclaimed. At this time, Sun Wukong is driving a machine to plow the field in a farming uniform. Wukong, I have something to tell you. Suyi shouted. Ha, it's Big Brother Suyi. Sun Wukong, who was driving the machine to plow the field, heard Suyi's voice and stopped immediately, then flew out of the machine and gave him a smile. There should be a god coming to Earth in a few months. During this time, everyone must practice well. Suyi said, Sun Wukong and others at the current stage are not too weak, they are actually stronger than the current stage of the original work. However, Suyi is afraid of the butterfly effect. If this guy Binus is not as friendly to the Monkey King as the original book, wouldn't it be a cool song for them? Is that god very powerful? Sun Wukong's eyes lit up and he was very excited. Yes, he is stronger than me at the moment. Suyi nodded and said that at the beginning of the Dragon Ball Super plot, if he could not make a move, naturally he would try not to make a move. The reason is very simple, because before his strength completely surpasses that of the god of destruction, Binus, it is necessary for him to stabilize and develop slowly. Binus is powerful, but the most powerful is his destructive energy and the great priest Quanwang above. In short, steady, if not steady, then beat.